Bearcat Bounce Podcast. Back at it again. It's a Monday, guys. It's a beautiful Monday. It's a Monday following the conclusion of year 2 of the Wes Miller era here in Cincinnati. It's the re-beginning again of spring practice under year 1 of Coach Scott Satterfield. It is also the opening of the beautiful transfer portal for basketball and offseason for basketball and every single thing that comes with it. And it's also a Monday where we get to welcome in a very special guest, a guy who hopefully will be one to join us for many a time from here on out. It's also a Monday where I get to welcome in my guys that I'm always here with, my pals, my trio. That's right. Without further ado, Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, and Ryan Royer. Gentlemen, Ryan, not here yet. But guys, how are we? Chad and Aaron. We'll get to you, Nico.
I'm at mom's, as you can see from the background. This is not my normal standard background because, Athens power grid is, according to Dave, put together with Lincoln Logs and Silly String. So
You're not wrong.
I agree. With that said, I'm not doing well, but we're making it.
Okay. You're roughing it. Chad, how are we?
Good. Had a nice volleyball dad weekend down in beautiful Lexington, Kentucky. Heartbreaker of a loss in the quarterfinals. They had a 14-9 lead. You played a 15 in the third set, 14-9, and lost 17-15 to advance to the semifinals. But they bounced back. They got the 5th place win shortly after that, which, I'm going to tell you something. These volleyball things, there's one thing about these volleyball things that are unlike anything I've been a part of, and that is the girls in between games have to officiate the other games. So, be the line judges and do the scorebook.
Yep.
So, we were in a situation where we had a 2:00 Sunday afternoon was the final game. And if they won, we got to go and get back on the road and come back home. And if they lost, we would have had to have stayed and officiated the next game. And you talk about pressure. And those girls came through and they won and we got to leave. And I've never been more happy as a fan in my life. What do you mean we have to stay while they work?
Spike, baby.
They got it done. I'm enjoying volleyball dad life. It's a fun sport. They're pretty good for 12, 13-year-olds. They're solid. It's a fun sport to watch if it's being played well. I like it.
I was actually a line judge for a couple of games that my sister played in back in the day. And I'd just be a high schooler just randomly showing up and they'd throw me out there. And I tell you what, the parents, some of the calls, I'd be like, no, that was out. That was way out. And they'd blow up on me and I'd have to swallow that and just, keep rolling. And I decided I'd stop doing it after about the second or third time. But yeah, it's fun. Bump, set, spike, Chad. Bump, set, spike. But hey, we've got someone else that's not Ryan Royer. Ryan is on his way. He had to finish up some engineering things. But in his place, yet again, in his place for the time being, is the director of football sports performance, also the pride of Detroit Catholic Central, also one of the best fullbacks in the dying breed that is the fullback position. The man, hopefully soon, going to be the myth and the legend of BBP. Shout outs to the guy that went up north. But without further ado,
he didn't die. He
shouts to the person. Yeah. North on the map, not north like that. North on the map. Without further ado, Nico Palizzetti. Nico, how are we?
I'm good, Brent. Thank you for the very humbling introduction, man. I appreciate that a lot.
I mean,
he practiced that 7 times today.
I am amazed by that. I mean, shoot, I sound pretty edgy right now.
Humbling. How about this? 1,279 yards, 24 touchdowns, leading a 14-0 state championship team back in 2009. Nico Palizzetti, coach, how are we?
I'm good. I'm great now. Now you mentioned my high school stats. I'm like, oh, hell yeah.
He's thorough.
That's a good time.
He's thorough. If there are stats Brent Young will dig them up.
Good. Commentate my life, please, Brent. This is good, man.
Those were easy to find. But I've got some late quick hitters that I'll try and surprise you with later on. But without further ado, Coach, first off, welcome to the BBP. As you know, you've kind of been heard through the grapevine that Brady Collins was a bi-weekly co-host here on the pod. Just giving good insight on the team and insight on just kind of life around the program and whatnot. And I know for a fact that I listened to a couple of pods that you've been on. So and you do a good job filling up amount of time with your voice and with your insights. So look forward to building on that as well. But I guess without further ado, let's give everyone just a brief history about yourself. Catch everyone up with who Coach Nico Palazetti is.
Thank you, man. Well, first off, yeah, it's humbling to be on your podcast, man. I mean, heard great things. I know big shoes to fill here, but I'm very good at talking a lot. So just tell me to shut up when you guys are ready to tell me to shut up. But originally I'm from Metro Detroit. I grew up about 25 minutes west of the city of Detroit. Like you said so graciously, I played football in high school at Detroit Catholic Central High School. It's a private Catholic high school, kind of 25 minutes outside Detroit. Was fortunate enough to be a part of a state championship team there. For some reason, I was offered a scholarship to play at Michigan State, which is incredible because it was in 1968, and there was about 2 fullbacks in the country, and I guess they offered one of them. And was able to play for Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State. Had an incredible experience there. Injured my neck going into my senior year, and so once I injured my neck, I went into being a graduate assistant. So I interned, graduated, and then went right into being a GA. Fell in love with strength and conditioning because I was kind of, as an intern, I was doing both football and strength, and just fell in love with the strength and conditioning side of things. After that, I worked at Mississippi State for a year. So that was my first full-time job. Was down at Starkville in 2015. 2016 was at University of Maryland. And then from 2017 on, from 2017 to 2022, I was at Ohio State. So I was in Columbus, and then this opportunity arose, and it was an absolutely dream come true, incredible opportunity. Seized the opportunity, and I'm just so blessed. The fact that I'm talking to you guys right now on a freaking Monday night is like pretty surreal. So this is great.
Gotcha.
I was going to say, being a Michigan guy, played for Michigan State, from Detroit, you take the Ohio State job. Did you have to like sit down and like have a talk with yourself? Like we can do this. It's going to be okay. I know that I've got some feelings built up inside, but it's going to be all right.
Yeah, you just kind of become a mercenary at this point. It's unfortunate. Like, you just kind of, I don't want to say you burn the clothes that you were wearing, but like you just kind of move on. And it was definitely bittersweet, though. I mean, the first time I played at Michigan State, I was a Buckeye, and it's surreal because you're going up and the security guards are the same security guards when you played, and you're dabbing them up, and then the EQ guys and the compliance officer and the academic people. So it's like all the same faces that you've seen since you were an 18-year-old, and definitely very, very surreal. But at the end of the day, shoot, man, you're just trying to survive. You're trying to feed your family, man. So you go with loyalty, and you go with who's paying you, man, for better or for worse.
There he is. Hey, buddy.
You guys are gonna love the reason why I'm late. How you doing, Coach? By the way, pardon my tardiness.
All right, heard great things about you, man. I'm honored.
Bad first impression. Hopefully, I can make up for it.
Why were you late?
All right, so I was about to hop in the shower and just took off my bracelet, and it just fell straight down the drain. And so I had to disassemble my sink because I didn't want, like, sometimes when you run water in the house, it messes up like the water pressure. So I was like, I got to get this out now because I mean it wasn't a cheap bracelet. So Danny would love that story, Nico. So we got to tell him about that. He always gives me shit for the bracelet. So I had to save it, man. I couldn't let it go. So Nico, you're important, but I couldn't lose it. So I had to
That's
disassemble
10
the sink.
push-ups from the chat, Royer. 10 push-ups.
I got my chest in today, so
There you go.
I'm a little sore.
Yeah.
I won't be able to do that, but we'll take care of something next week.
Man, taking apart the sink. Did you find anything else crazy in there? I mean, it's got to be a little.
Hey,
interesting
that's the first time
activity.
I've done it, man. I was not ready for the smell.
Oh, isn't it gross?
It smelled terrible. It made me feel terrible about all the things coming out of my body because that shit stinks. A bunch of beard hair, all that shit in there. So
Well, yeah, you don't even live with a girl. I've had to disassemble with the lady, and man, I tell you what, the amount of hair that's a different conversation for a different time, man. But
yeah, not many girls running around my apartment, man.
Give me the heebie-jeebies. But man, well, hey, Royer, how are we? Welcome in. Did you get the bracelet back? Let's see it. You got it on?
Yeah.
That's right here. I
Hey,
didn't put it on
baby.
yet.
Let's
It's
go.
Right here. It's real too. It ain't no fake shit now. Come
It's
on, we
real.
don't do it like that.
The real deal.
Like that.
Had
I'm
to.
not like Danny with all that fake bro shit. He tries to act
He's
like
got
he's
all the going on.
Oh yeah, that shit's fake as hell. Don't let him tell you that, man.
The Guido.
Don't even.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm good, man. I'm excited because I've heard great things about Coach Nico. I'm pumped to get to meet him virtually, but I'm assuming I'm going to meet him here in person soon. So I'm super excited. This is gonna be one of my favorite podcasts we've had in a while.
There we go.
This is awesome, man. Appreciate it, Ryan. Man, I've heard awesome things about you, dude. You're like a legend, you're a cult hero. And anyone that talks about you, like introduces you as like that's like a hushed tone. So it's humbling, dude. It's very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
We're
to meet you as well.
We're just setting up the past right now, Ryan, and then it'll be a table for all of us to dive into. But Coach, I want to go back a little bit more to when you hung up the cleats, if you will.
Yeah.
Not by your own choice, but by something kind of out of your own control. What was kind of the steps after that? Because I mean, you go from on a football team to all of a sudden you've got to start making your own type of decisions and figuring out what you want to do in the next steps. What kind of was it that led you to it? And kind of mentioned Coach D'Antonio a little bit. Obviously a huge connection to Cincinnati there as well, and kind of everything that he kind of instilled through you as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too personal too quick, but the same day that my football career ended, I injured my neck in a scrimmage, and I had been battling neck injuries for the past half a year, for like the last 6 months, and trying to come back for spring or for fall camp, and wasn't able to push through it. And so I injured my neck for the last time. And actually, it was the same day my girlfriend, now wife's mother, passed away. And so it was like a really devastating day. And I had communicated with Coach Antonio throughout the process, and he knew. So he said, "Go home, handle your business." And went home and just tried to, have perspective on the whole situation and try to kind of ground myself. And just went home and after the weekend, after the funeral and stuff, went back. And my only thought process the whole time I was at home was just thinking of providing value. Like, all I want to do is provide value. Like, I didn't really know what, and I was praying about it, and I didn't know where or how, really. And I had no interest. Like, I had no direction. I was a psychology major because I had no interest in doing anything, just learning about behavior and just being super general. So I was like, screw it, I'll do psychology. Let's do it.
Yep.
And so I just was kind of directionless, but I knew I wanted to make an impact. And I knew that I still felt like I had value on the team and value to provide, the guys I was playing with. And I went back and met with Coach Antonio, and I just almost tearfully was just like, "Coach, just please let me provide value. Please let me be around the guys. I don't know how or where, or, I literally was their teammate, 3 days ago, but at the same time, I just want to provide value." And, he kind of nodded. He said, "Yeah, we can look." And so he's like, we'll try to find something for you. And so I, after that, just kind of wandered in the weight room because, let's be honest, man, like, bunch of, I was just a weightlifter who was playing football for my leasing agreement. That was pretty much all I was doing. I was just training all around, man. I love to train. And so I went to talk to the strength coach, Ken Manny, walk in, And he's sitting on an exercise bike, and he barks at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, just startled. I'm like, "Oh, here to talk to you, coach." And he's like, "We got a lift in 20 minutes." He's like, "You're coaching up next." Ironically, go change. Go to your locker. Go change. So I'm kind of startled. I walk back, and he had taken all of his old coaching gear, put it in my locker, had a whistle there for me, and it was like the most humbling thing ever. And so I literally went from playing 3 days later, all the guys come in the weight room, and I'm sitting there with a whistle, coaching guys up, and no one really thought anything of it. They all just dabbed me up and did what I said, and it was pretty cool. It was really humbling. And Coach Antonio also let me allow me to do football, and I worked with the running backs and the quarterbacks that year. And it was a magical year. That was the year we went to the Rose Bowl and won the Rose Bowl, beat Stanford in the Rose Bowl. It was an incredible experience, and so just grateful to those guys, man. Grateful to a husky Italian kid out of Metro Detroit, man, and gave me an opportunity, and I'll be eternally grateful to those guys, man.
Awesome. Aaron, do you have
Oh, I don't know if you want to get into it yet, but I was just curious what Coach Antonio said when you told him that you were going to be at Cincinnati.
Oh man, they were Coach D. He's such a good person, man. He's such a good person. We've stayed in touch, and it's so humbling too, because Cincinnati's always been a program I've admired from afar, just because I've had so many ties to it. When I got to Michigan State, the format and the formula for success at Michigan State was pretty much how he did it at Cincinnati, which was kind of take the second-tier Ohio kid that was a real chippy, edgy kid that got overlooked by Ohio State, and just bring them in, and they have that chip on their shoulder. They're tough as nails. They're chippy, edgy kid. Kind of a second-tier Michigan kid. Just an edgy bunch of kids that were from good programs that wanted to play and had something to prove. And it was always Cincinnati. So I played with so many Cincinnati kids. My roommate Marcus Rush went to Cincinnati Moeller, and all these guys. All I knew was about Cincinnati and freaking Skyline Chili and all that stuff. And so I'm like, this. It's basically like half the team was from Cincinnati, and so I grew to really respect it. And then obviously, two of my best friends, Danny Felino and Zach Higgins, coached there. And so we played football at Michigan State together. And so I've always had a fondness for the university and always had a respect, and obviously the success that Coach Fickle has had. And, it's an incredible thing. And I've always admired how they've played. And so there's so many touch points with the university. So when I actually had the opportunity to come here, it was almost interesting, because while I hadn't worked at Cincinnati, I felt like I had such a connection to it. It felt like I knew so much about the players. I knew so much about the school, about the infrastructure, and just by having conversations with my buddies and knowing about the school and knowing about the fan base. And it was something that almost was like second nature to me. Just was very, very comforting to know that I knew and had such a high respect for the university. It felt nothing was foreign to me. So it was a really great transition right off the bat, just because I had so much respect for the school and for the program.
So just to go back, what exactly did D'Antonio say though when you did
that was a question, right? Yeah, you know what, dude? We were talking on the phone prior, and we texted a little bit, but we had talked on the phone late fall in the 2022 season, and he just was very complimentary of me, and just wishing me luck and wishing me for best for the future endeavors, because we saw each other at the Notre Dame Ohio State game. That was the last time we saw each other, and then just texting, just congratulations and stuff like that. But I think a lot of he knows it's a great place, and I think he knows it's a great place for me, and he's very proud, and it's been pretty cool.
Awesome.
So obviously you have the connection at Ohio State, but you also went down south and out east as well. What did years down in Mississippi State and also in Maryland do for you, not only as a coach but as a person as well?
Yeah, well, it was easy at Michigan State because guys I played with most of the players, and then anyone that I hadn't played with came in and kind of respected me because they knew I had played. And then, I was 23. I got an opportunity to coach out of Mississippi State, and you want to talk about a culture shock, man. I mean, that was about as different as, I mean, I never lived out of the state of Michigan, and I went down to Starkville, Mississippi, and I don't hunt and I don't fish. And so I didn't really know what to do with myself, and I didn't really know who to talk to. And, you know, and my name's Nico Palizzetti, and that's about as exotic as any name down there. And so they were looking at me like I had, I was speaking Mandarin. They didn't know what the heck I was, and I didn't really know. Couldn't really understand them either. So it was the greatest learning experience, new environment for me. The kids were different. The kids responded to me in a different way. I had to learn how to be adaptable. I had to learn how to be resilient. I had to learn how to connect in a whole different way and connect from anew. And I wasn't much older than them, so I just had to, relate, reach them where they were at. It was probably the best experience that could have ever happened to me because it ripped away all of my comfort and threw me into my anxieties and my insecurities and just said adapt and grow. And it was such a great experience. It was so, it was so rewarding and such a great place, there were great teams, like such great people. I mean, Dak Prescott was on that team, and there was a lot of really, really good players. And, Chris Jones from Kansas City, like just great players, great time to be a part of that program. And I worked with a great staff that really, really challenged me. And it was a competitive, fun staff. And had the opportunity to go to University of Maryland after the end of the 2015 season. So I jumped on that, got a little closer to home, back in the Big Ten. Felt like a great move, kind of a startup program. And from a year one coach, and enjoyed that experience. Really, really great experience. And then when the Buckeyes called, they called, and you don't say no to that one. So you just jumped on that one. I was bummed too because we had moved 2 times in a year and a half, and I just got married, and it was unfortunate because my wife was in Mississippi. She was fulfilling her teaching contract. Mm-hmm. I was working in Maryland, and then we got married in Michigan. And then she finally moves up. We get a little apartment all settled, and we're in Columbus. So, that's the life. That's the coaching lifestyle, though. So, I mean, shoot. I mean, I just had a second baby girl, and my wife was 36 weeks pregnant. We moved to Cincinnati. So, it is what it is, man.
The people in Mississippi are like, where'd that Brady guy go? He was crazy. He was one of us.
Yeah, no, they love Brady Collins is right up their alley, man. They love that dude. It was so funny. I came down, and that was the first of 3 times I've.
So he told the first thing he said when it started to come together. He's like, I think I know who it is, and it's wild. But this will be the 3rd time that he's replaced me at a job.
Yeah, it's odd. It's almost odd. It is kind of weird because we actually joked about it this year at our strength conference, and we were just joking around like, "Oh, see you at Cincinnati," and sure enough, so Brady's a great dude. Ironically, I've never actually worked with Brady, but formed a great friendship with him, and he's a great coach, man. He does a great job.
In order to fulfill Brady's spot on this podcast, though, you're going to have to get a cooler with some drinks in it that you hammer as we go through the show. Brady would just sit him up on the shelf that was right here next to him as he would work through. What
I don't know if I could do that. I mean,
he was Natterdays
for a while.
He would have 4 Natterdays during the show.
Roy, your thoughts?
That's what he was drinking. He was drinking Natterdays.
Well, I think Aaron.
I wish I would have saw that.
Natterdays.
I wasn't making him do anything. Don't put that on me.
I went to town on him for
now,
that.
He also kept it hidden to where you couldn't exactly tell what he was drinking, but we knew.
Yeah, you knew. You could feel
Those
it.
things suck.
Say, what is that? Your canned water over there?
Yeah, he's getting more and more candid as he starts answering Ella's questions and stuff. Yeah, gotta love Brady, man. Yeah, he's a wild man. He's funny.
I thought he was
dude.
more of a Mike's Hard guy, but I don't know.
Saturdays guy, Royer.
No,
He
same
might
shit.
have put a Mike's Hard in there. One of those hard teas as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but
He's funny, man.
Yeah. So what? Talk about Mickey. You get the call to go into the legend. Brady called him sensei and kind of the czar and whatnot. So get the call to go over there. What was it like under him? And is that kind of the reason why you decided to head over to Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, Shoot, man, I was reading Muscle and Fitness magazines in 2006 with the Florida Gators on it, going, damn, that's awesome, man. Coach Mickey, I'd probably pronounce his name wrong, Mickey Mariotti or whatever. But I was reading those articles, man, as a 14, 15-year-old kid, going, holy cow. And then you meet Coach Mick at like a conference, and it's like Elvis, like you can't reach him, like you gotta you gotta be introduced to him. It's like seeing it's literally like seeing Elvis. Like you gotta navigate your way, and you're like, it's at the bar. It's always at the bar. It's like these clinics are always at bars, and so you always like someone's comes up to me and he's like, all right, I'm gonna introduce you to Coach Mick, and I'm like, all right, here we go. So then you get navigated through a group of people, and then you finally get close enough to him, and it's like you can barely touch him, and then you introduce yourself to him. He just kind of stares at you, and you crack a joke. I think I made an Italian beer joke or something. He chuckled at it. I'm like, all right, well, that was that. And then the next time, that was the only interaction I ever had with him. And I got a phone call asking, literally, it's January 3rd. And it was funny because I knew that Brady was getting the job in Cincinnati, and I thought nothing of it. I thought nothing of the vacant spot at Ohio State. And I got a phone call. It's January 3rd at 7, and I'm just sleeping in. It's January 2nd. It's after New Year's. And I get a phone call, and it was from a mutual contact, and he's like, would you be interested in working at Ohio State? And I spit out my water. I'm like, what are we talking about, dude? And my instinct was no, you just move. Obviously, personally, I didn't want to do it. But of course, I'm like, yes. So I call my wife. I'm like, obviously I'm interested. Let me just call my wife and just ask, see what her opinion on it. So I call her, and she's like, are you out of your mind? It's Ohio State. Yes. See ya. So I'm like, damn, that's cool. That's cool-hearted, man. So I obviously called back right away and just confirmed that I was interested. And working with him is you can't underestimate experience, man. There's some times where you bring them an idea, or you bring them a thought, or ask your opinion on something, and you give them the best thing you got, the thing you've been holding on to in your back pocket. He's gonna like this one. Check this one out, dude. He's like, yeah, I did that in 94, 98, and 2020, 2021. You're like, oh, all right. So you can't underestimate that he's been a head strength coach longer than I've been alive. Yep. And he's seen it all. He's experienced, but he's adapted to it, man. He's so adaptable, but he hasn't lost sight of who he is as a coach and who he is as a person. And he was a great mentor to me. Kind of like a paternal figure to me. I was there for 6 years. I was there for a long time, and got to formulate a really close relationship with him. And grateful to him. And I know he was another one that was, obviously he was a Bearcat first and foremost, and to kind of start where he started is pretty cool too.
That was the most mafioso goon to made man story I've ever heard on this podcast.
You like that one?
That was excellent.
Oh, dude, it's so funny, man. There's so it is. You can't just I told him this. I'm like, Coach Mick at a conference, man. And it was funny because this year, me and him are walking around the conference, and he's like, hey, where do you want to go? You want to go to the expo? And he's like, yeah. So we start walking to the expo. And then I realized that roles had twisted, that I was now the one guarding Mickey. And so everywhere we went, someone would come to me, and I would look at him, and he would and I'd be like, then we keep walking and stuff. So you become the role that you try to infiltrate the first part. I'm like, roles have grown, man. Here I am.
I'm just picturing you telling this beard joke while he's like, on this, the day of my daughter's wedding.
You bring this stupid to me.
Eminem, this is the one shot, 1 out of 10. Come on, baby. Let's see what you got, kid.
Your knees are weak and your arms wear heavy, too.
Exactly. Oh, man.
What do you think is the biggest thing you learned from Mick?
Oh, that's a great question. Alignment, structural alignment. I think that the thing that separates him is the ability to run a department and help assist a program that multiple performance departments. So you have obviously strength and conditioning, but you have athletic training, you have operations, equipment, nutrition, sports psych, sports science. You have all these different facets of sports performance. and he does an incredible job of creating alignment within all of those departments. And he makes it so that everyone speaks the same language, everyone knows the vision, everyone is aligned in the vision, and he drives that. So he builds an infrastructure that everyone in the whole performance department believes in the same thing, knows what's best for the kid, knows what the goals and objectives are for that kid to maximize his development, and then drives it. And so I think not being siloed off and seeing how he implements the entire performance department and is able to get that alignment within inner departments is second to none. That's the biggest thing I learned from him, was just like, it's so much like being a strength coach is so much more than just like coaching. It's, I mean, you know, after you've coached for a while, anyone can really coach. It's just the ability to create that alignment that helps the athlete. That's so much more than just strength and conditioning. That's the biggest thing I learned from him.
Yeah, like culture building. That's what we had a lot of development with at Cincinnati with the old staff. And it got to a point where the lifts were like, you know, you're getting stronger, you're doing the movements, you're helping out, like staying in shape, staying healthy. But really it was more about like those Friday lifts where we're building the culture, or those off season, like twice a week where they're kind of grind us down all the way down to the bit. And that's something that I think Coach Brady tapped into really well. And that's why I was so excited when they hired you, because I knew you know how to coach a culture, you know how to make a team, like, you know, how we used to say tough and nasty. I don't know what slogans you guys are using now exactly, but I knew the pedigree you came from, and I was just super, like, it was like the most bit of hope I had during all that turmoil. So I'm just super, because I hear all the shit you do to the guys. And when they said it was hard as hell, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, that's why we got him. So I was just super pumped about landing you.
Well, thank you. I mean, well, thank you very much. And I think you have to, like, I told him day one, like, it's got to be hard. Like, first off, my core values are passion, integrity, and toughness. And so what I stand for is, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be a man of my word. And I was like, so you can trust me when I say it's going to be really, really hard. And it has to be hard. Just like you said, like, if it's not hard, like if what you go through isn't hard, you have nothing to stand on and you have no foundation. Like, it has to be so difficult that everyone wants to quit, and everyone has to you're almost driving it to the point where things start to fall apart, and you want to see how guys adapt and grow and challenge each other. And you're trying to almost be that catalyst of uncomfortableness and just be nasty. You're right. Like, whatever term you want to use, like, you're trying to drive it, and it has to be hard. Like, if it's not hard and guys don't question it and guys aren't chippy and angry at me and mad at me for trying to drive them, like, I haven't done my job. I haven't pushed them hard enough. And that was what we were trying to do all winter. The number one goal was build and establish a culture, and then make it as hard as possible. And if it wasn't hard and competitive, then I didn't want to do it. Like, everything we did in the winter was through that lens of, like, is it hard? Is it competitive? And then, great. Once those two boxes are checked, how can we fit it into our culture? And that's really what we were trying to drive. And thank you for saying that, because it was as hard as I could safely make it. And our staff did a great job. But yeah, it was a challenge, and it has to be, because that's our edge. I mean, like, we are who we are. If we're not, if we don't believe in our work ethic, and we don't believe in how we do things and the culture of what you stand behind, then nothing matters. And you're 100% right. That's the most important thing. It's another great thing you learn from Meg, is that what you do is important, yeah, but it's how you do it and the intent you do it with and the belief system you have within it. It's 100% right.
I mean, that's why you guys would march into Columbus and stomp out the Buckeyes. Like, that's exact. I mean, I was a Buckeye fan growing up in Columbus, and I would watch you guys. I'm like, oh, here comes Michigan State to whoop our ass again. And I knew, like, and you could just see it. Like, when I was just like a little kid, you could see, like, there's just something different about you guys. And knowing, like, Danny would tell me all about it, and he'd tell me about Coach Manny, he'd tell me about Coach D, and I was like, damn, like, that just sounds like a fun ass program to be a part of. And then you kind of felt that our program shift towards the end, and it was just like, that's what drives success, man. Like, you saw it when you were at Michigan State, you saw it with us at Cincinnati. And I was wondering, like, did you ever like give Mickey shit for like how you guys would come in there and just like dog his guys like that?
Yeah, funny you said that. First off, the best thing about being here is how similar. I don't know if you were on when we started talking about it, but the similarities between the Michigan State teams of the Mark D'Antonio era and the current group we have now at Cincinnati is so eerie. It feels like I'm back at Michigan State and like the type of kid and the chippy, edgy, like you got that core group of like Midwestern tough kids from great programs, and you got sprinkles of just feisty, tough kids that want to compete, and you can just coach hard, and it's gross and it's tough. And like that is the best thing in the entire world to be back to. And like, so yes, that is 100% why Michigan State had success. 100%. Like the reason why is just you create a culture of we aren't as good as you, but we've worked harder than you, and we're angrier and we're more pissed off, and we're gonna take it out on you. And that's a violent, tough thing to compete with, man. Especially when those teams are actually pretty damn competitive and tough, and talented. But yeah, so on my interview, it's funny, dude. It's funny you said that. On my interview, walking at Ohio State, we're walking around, and Coach Mick's kind of like, it's like there's like a weird maze of a facility, and all of a sudden we pop in, and it's Coach Meyer's office, and I'm like, go. And Coach Meyer's a huge dude. He's like 6'3". He's way bigger than you would expect. And he stands up. And he's obviously the most intimidating human being who's ever existed. And you're like, oh, how are we doing, Coach? I shake his hand, and I'm just trying to like, just feel him out. And he's just drilling me. He's like breaking every HR no. He's talking to me about like politics. He's talking to me about like what my family orientation's like. I'm like, what are you talking about? And so he's like, who'd you vote for? It's like 2016. I'm like, what are we talking about, dude? I'm reading the room here. I'm like looking up at the TVs. I'm like, and so he goes,
what channel's on here?
Yeah, exactly.
Lower left.
Like, I'm seeing a lot of red here, so I'm going with, you know what I'm saying? And so he goes, what's your background? And I go, I tell him, and he's like, you were at Michigan State? I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, what years? And I'm like, 2010 to 2014. He's like, did you beat us? I'm like, yep, yes, sir. We beat you in 11. I know you weren't here, but we beat Ohio State in 11, and then we beat you guys in 13. He's like, beat us to go to the national championship. I'm like, yep. And I'm telling you, his memory of that game, he rattles off every single thing about that game. We had you in the second quarter and this and this and this, and starts rattling it off. And I'm like, oh man, I struck a nerve. I'm not getting this job. And then he's like, were you there in 15? Which, the game that Michigan State came into Columbus and beat them. I'm like, no, thank God I wasn't. I was in Mississippi State. And just like, yeah, you could tell, man. So it was fun to kind of, especially in those days, man, like Michigan State and Ohio State went back and forth. I think they changed years pretty much from 2011 to 2016. So it was pretty cool to be a part of that time. And even the respect that Ohio State had for Michigan State made you feel good. And the respect that Urban Meyer had for Coach Antonio and Coach Antonio had for Coach Meyer, it was pretty fun to be a part of. But yeah, it was definitely clearly a memory of the interview.
I vividly remember that 33-yard touchdown that you guys put up to seal the game. I remember that just clear as day. Was it Langford?
Jeremy Langford, ripped it off.
33, I remember that. I remember I was screaming at the TV. Fuck those Michigan. Like, I don't know. I was probably like 13 years old. Don't tell my parents I was saying that. But I would like, because what would you say the biggest difference was? Like, you just think, because the way me and Danny would always talk about how like all that combine bullshit, all the stars that Ohio State would have over you guys at Sparty, it just like once you get on the field, like it doesn't mean jack shit. And that's what like I felt like Coach Fickle stripped us down and stripped all that shit down. And we didn't even have much stars to go around, to be honest with you. And they just built us back up. And that's what, like, I almost felt kind of towards the end, we were not getting softer, but it was just like, it was kind of like a comfortability. Like we've been kind of like, the culture's been built for kind of a while, and it was kind of like coasting. And it was just refreshing to have you come in and like see how you're kind of destroying the guys. Cause I think a lot of the young guys needed that. And, I think Satterfield and the staff needs to know that's the mentality. And I think it really does start with you. And I'm just proud as hell that you're carrying that through, especially as an alumni and a guy that kind of knows a lot of the roots that you come from. So make sure Satterfield knows to recruit those Midwest kids, man, those overlooked kids, and the 3 stars, the 2 stars, and all those guys. And I don't know how much leeway he gives you, but I mean, I trust you with anything. So please make sure he sticks to that shit, because it really will. It's gonna be the only way that we can dig our ways up in the Big 12. So
no, I think you're spot on. I think he absolutely understands that. And like, if you like, the more and more you think about like the Cincinnati job, and the more you think about the university as it goes in the Big 12, it's such a great opportunity. Because obviously you go in the Big 12 and there's going to be, there's going to be an adjustment, but at the same time, like you're in that amazing recruiting base with an amazing fan base, an amazing place, and you're competing against teams that don't have that recruiting base. They don't have a big city feel, and they don't have a fan base that's loyal, and you don't have a venue to play at like this. You don't have Cincinnati and Dayton and Columbus and Cleveland. You don't have all these amazing recruiting bases right in your backyard and in your home state. And really in your home city, you don't have such an established place to recruit that's right down to like, so the more and more like the Big 12 comes into clarity, you're like, holy crap, because what an incredible opportunity. What a great conference to be in, and what a great place to play against. And like, I'm just so excited to be a part of it. And I think that's absolutely the identity of the team is like, you're right. For me, it was easy. Like, I don't know anybody. I'm just going to punch everybody, like metaphorically, of course, but like, I'm just gonna do this and swing. And like, I don't care about egos or personalities or whatever. And if you happen to land in front of my fist, look out. But like, that was the goal, was just punch everyone down and just rebuild it. And like, obviously respect to what was, because like, I mean, victory and success leaves clues. And so, and I knew so much about the program just because of the connections I was with. And so you admire and you respect what was a part, but at the same time, you're true to yourself and you're true to your own identity and what you believe in. And it'd be phony to stray too far from that. And so just kind of built it up from there and tried to just drive Coach Satt's vision. And it's been great, man. It's been a fun time. But no, thank you so much for those compliments. And I think you're 100% right. Like, staying within Cincinnati, recruiting that Ohio kid and recruiting that Midwest kid that's under-recruited and chippy and edgy and tough, like, that's the way. And you watch our practices, you're like, I mean, it's a chippy, groupy, nasty bunch, man, that just goes hard, man. And they're competing, man. It's so fun. It's so fun. You just like, even in the winter, man, you drop a tire in the middle of guys and you said, go get after it. Guys are just ripping each other's heads off. It's like, it's easy. It's fun. It's great. Yeah. I like having to tell guys to slow down. And, it's been, there's such a fun group to coach, man. So fun.
Good.
It's good.
Love
good
to hear
segue.
it.
Yeah. Love to hear that. All of it. Thanks, Ryan, for opening that. But Coach, just good segue into just kind of filling us in on how you becoming in this role with Coach Satterfield came about, as much as you can disclose, obviously.
Yeah. So I know I thought the Cincinnati job was the best job available. When it was announced that Coach Fickle was going to Wisconsin, I'm like, oh my gosh, what an incredible job. And so Zach Higgins, who he was an assistant at Cincinnati, he was at Ohio State with us. So he was kind of plugging me in, and we're trying to see who landed and who was going to get that job. And when they announced Coach Satt, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I see it. Like, and I knew he didn't have a head strength coach. And there was a couple connections on staff. The biggest connection was actually Kerry Combs. Mm-hmm. I know they were trying to retain Kerry, and I had worked with Kerry in 2017 and 2019 and 20 at Ohio State. Yep. And so we had a great connection and a great bond, and he was really pushing for me and trying to just keep, because I think as Ryan was talking about, like, it starts with a weight room and it starts with kind of that tough, chippy, edgy attitude. And so if you're not going to establish that the way that the guys know how to train, like, that's the kind of the foundation that I think Coach Combs knew was really important. and our relationship, he was big, and he helped push me and get that job. And Coach Mick was big, and Todd Fitch, who was at Ohio State, who his son was on staff with Coach Sad at Louisville. So there was kind of a couple connections there. But overall, you got to thank Kerry Combs and Coach Mick and Coach Todd Finch. And there was a couple connections, and led to just a phone call. So he called me. I was geeked. He's like, it's like Tuesday night at like 9:00. It's like mid-December, early December, pretty much right after. I don't know the exact date, but I think it was like the next day after he got in the job. He calls. So I think it's a Tuesday. Maybe they announced it Monday. And he goes, "Can you be here Wednesday? Can you be here tomorrow?" I'm like, "Let's go, baby." So I'm like calling everybody who knew Coach Sat. And I'm like, do you know how he'd interview? What's his format? Like, what's it going to be? Because you're trying to like anticipate what he wants in the interview and what he wants to hear. And so I finally kind of get a game plan. I go up. It's really awkward, actually, because I knew – no, it wasn't awkward. It was actually pretty cool. I knew most people at Cincinnati. So I'm going down the hallways, and I'm hugging everybody in the hallways. So they're kind of escorting me through the hallways. And I, like, know everybody there because of just connections in Ohio State and all my buddies, and I'd been there a bunch of times. So I'm hugging everybody. So as they're interviewing me, it's almost like I'm like helping them like understand who the personnel is that's pre-existing. So it's kind of a funny, surreal moment, like when you are as indirectly involved with the program as I was, just because of my friends. It was actually pretty cool to be able to like and help inform them on what the job they currently had, just because they were day one, trying to get situated as well. And so it was just kind of a cool, very casual. I mean, we talked for basically about 3-4 hours and just yucked it up and hung out and just got to see Coach Sat's character and who he is as a human being. He's such a great person, and he just cares so much and just wants to. He has a great vision and just respected strength. And I just thought it was about as casual of an interview as I've ever been a part of. And I didn't know how I did because we just kind of yucked it up and talked. I think we talked about strength for about 10 minutes. And I think he just wants good people that are really passionate and competent at their job to do their job. And that was kind of the vibe I got. And went back, didn't hear from him for about 3 days, and said, this is either a great thing or a terrible thing. And finally I got a phone call saying he wanted to offer me the job, and I was ecstatic. So.
And then first impressions when you went to the weight room for the first time with some of the guys that are returning players, the Jawan Briggs and the Dante Corleones, Malik Vans of the world. I mentioned all the defensive linemen there, but just kind of your first impression on some of the dudes that were returning that are dudes.
It's funny, Brenda, you said that, because on my first day, the 3 people who I met was Briggs, Dante, and Malik. So that's hilarious that you said those 3 people, and Damo Perry and stuff. Those were the guys who I met right off the bat. One was passion of the weight room. One was just guys that, like, you got to credit, Brady. I mean, the guys know how to train. Guys are passionate about training. So obviously you knew that guys understood the importance of the weight room, wanted to train, wanted to be there. I'm at the Peach Bowl, and guys are calling me about when they can train. So I'm like calling Cincinnati, the Olympic staff, to try to find open time. So like that's how these guys are knocking on my door, my cell phone, I guess you could say, just asking, just trying to beat down the door and get in there to train, which is like, as a strength coach, you're almost like have tears in your eyes. You're so happy. I'm like, yes, I get to train these guys. And then you get there, and the biggest thing I was there's just no ego. Like, guys just wanted to be trained, and guys were so humble, because I told Briggs, I told a lot of those guys, those really top-end strong guys, I'm like, listen, we're going to go slow. We're going to learn it the right way. It's going to be different than what you've experienced. Just be patient with me. Just trust me. And for me, trust is bigger. Just trust me just trust the program, trust the system. I'll get you guys right. Our system will get you guys right. Just be patient. And I think it was different enough where it really, really challenged them. But just trust with those guys, especially a lot of the older players. And then once we started getting ramped up, there was just a lot of trust, and guys it was great. It was great. And I thought overall, just so impressed with what the culture was and what the expectation was in the weight room. And it was just fun to kind of be myself throughout the process of it.
Right, you got it.
What was one thing that you felt that maybe after a couple of days you're like, oh, I want to do this. I can feel like I can improve this, or this is my like little niche that I think will apply really well here for these guys. Because you mentioned that it seemed like, you know, everything was the way you would want it to be. But I know, like, being the kind of competitor you are, you want to put your own spin on things, and, you know, nothing's ever going to be perfect. So was there one thing that you kind of felt that you really brought to the table?
Well, one is just my personality. Like, I'm not trying to be anyone other than myself, for better or for worse. I mean, I am who I am. And like, I mean, it's 9 o'clock on a Monday. Like, I'm getting all jacked up talking to you guys, man. This has been a blast, guys. I appreciate having me. I'm like leaning forward as I go. But this is just great. I mean, it was just, one was be authentic. And I think, you know, Coach Mick, and for my mentorship, that I was prepared enough where I could just be myself. Like, I knew the vision I wanted to do. I knew I had a great staff with me. And the biggest thing that helped me do is just be authentic and just like, this is what I believe in. These are my core values. This is what I want our program to stand for and represent. And then let's let it rip. And so having that freedom to just be myself and not have to try to be anything other than who I am helped a lot. It just gave me autonomy to just coach as hard as I possibly could and have challenge our staff to do the same. So that was be authentic and just drive everything through just, you know, passion, integrity, toughness, and just make sure that everything we did was violent, hardcore, tough, violent training, but also had applicability to spring. Because at the end of the day, like, this is a competitive spring, and I would be doing these guys a disservice if I wasn't preparing them to have success in the spring, just because of how you know, there's an evaluation. You're trying to win a job, and this is big time for these guys, man. I get it. So for me, it was establish a culture, but also prepare these guys for performance, success. From opportunities, I met with every player. And so I met with every single player, just sat down with them all one-on-one. Because for me, one of it, what we talked about was trust. And like, how am I supposed to yell at you if I don't know who you are and you don't know who I am, you don't know where my heart is? And like, it's a lot easier to coach someone as hard as you possibly can if they know you care about them. And even if they don't know who I am completely at the time, they knew that I at least spent 25 minutes to talk with them and get to know them better and get to know their stories. And for the biggest, I asked them 3 questions. The first one is, you know, tell me about yourself. What's your upbringing? What motivates you? What inspires you? The second one was, what are your goals? And the last one was like, what do you need from me? Like, how can I help you? And so really opportunities arose from those conversations. And the biggest thing was, upholding a standard, coaching everyone really, really hard, which I was like, check, I can do that. That's very easy. The second one was nutrition, was they wanted enhanced nutrition. And, you know, just being in the Big 12 and now we were having more resources, that's something that we've really put a hard, you know, emphasis on just enhancing nutrition and enhancing the experience that these guys get. And trying to just make sure that, you know, you train, you know, 1.5 hours to 2 hours a day, but if you're not recovering properly, then it's like trying to fight with your hands tied behind your back. Like, you just aren't optimized. And so the administration's been incredible, supportive, and we hired a full-time dietitian the first time in Cincinnati history. And so with football, and it's been great, man. It's been so much easier to help and drive results. And that's been a huge thing. And so just talking with those guys help reveal some things that we can work on. And it's been pretty good.
I'm really glad you didn't ask them who they voted for in the last election.
Exactly.
I just wanted to know what your first impression was. I don't know if this was the first time you'd been in Nippert Stadium. You get the access to the brand new renovated locker rooms. I was curious if you have any input as to what's going on with the creation of the indoor practice facility. Just kind of your thoughts on the facilities that you have at your access now.
I've been at the NIP a couple times. And the first thing I was there in 2017 at a clinic, and I walked in. We had a dinner at the press box, and I was like, "Damn, this is nice, dude! Like, this is sick." And I think what was the press box renovated? 2016, 20.
Yeah, I think
it was about.
Yeah, so it was like brand new when I was there, and it was incredible. I thought I was blown away with the stadium and the atmosphere, and obviously when you watch it on TV, you're like, your jaw drops. So from a respect to the stadium and the atmosphere, massively impressive. And that was even before I got there. from a facility standpoint, the locker room's absolutely beautiful. The weight room is very, very functional. It's a huge space. And so one of the biggest things that we want to do is try to make a training space for all athletes, because the weight room is kind of sectioned off a little bit. And so it's over 20,000 square foot facility. And so what we try to do is just make it so the lift times align so that football had it completely blocked off, and then make it one giant weight room. And so if you're ever in town, come on down. It's just a giant training space. And we've tried to maximize that space. It's gone really, really well. Obviously, there's the new fueling zone attached to the locker room, which has been completely utilized. We're enhancing the Varsity Club, which is the meal room upstairs. So we're putting a bunch of money into that and resources into that. And then they broke ground on creating the new indoor. It's just like, it's incredible. It's like literally the best time. I'm pinching myself every time I talk about this stuff, because like how blessed am I and our staff to be a part of this university at this time. And yes, the weight room, the shell of the facility is already set, but as far as designing the room, it's still up in the air. And so that gives us full autonomy to kind of make it our room, and how we program and train. And so it's like,
so you'll literally be leaving your mark on the program in one way or the other from what you leave behind as a
correct. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's an absolute dream come true. And it's funny because I've been involved with, this would be my third weight room I've been involved with, and I've never seen it actually built. So at the University of Maryland, we started designing a weight room, left Ohio State. They started designing a weight room in 2020, COVID. Then we started back up in 2021, 22, left. And now this one, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like, what a dream, man. So I actually get to do the thing, and I just do like a test run of it. So I'm absolutely get to leave a mark and try to make the best training space for our athletes. And it's right attached to the indoor. So that you have garage doors that come up. And so you can train, you can run, and you can go right to the weight room and just have that accessibility and that just a logistics standpoint. Like, now I'm geeking out. Now I'm talking training. Let's go. What do you guys want to know? Let's go. I'm all fired up about this, but no, it's like, it's an absolute dream come true. And it's a dream facility to have. And the flow of the facility is great. And I've been working on that since we got there too. That was fun because they're like, I'm like trying to design, like get one weight room set, and they're already talking to me about the next weight room. I'm like, I'm just trying to it was funny because when I first got here, so now I'm on a tangent. So Zach Higgins, who worked at Cincinnati and then was in Columbus, his wife was finishing up her residency. She's a doctor, and her fellowship. And so he's been commuting from Cincinnati, from Batavia to Columbus for almost 2 years now, which is completely psychopathic.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'm pretty tough. And I'm like, easy, dude. I get this job. I'll just do the thing backwards. I'll just go from Columbus to Cincinnati. And I did it one time and it was raining. And I'm like, bump this, dude. I will never do this ever again. So I lived in his basement for 3 days, for 3 weeks when I first got here. All of January, I lived in his basement, which was great. It's nothing better than living in a basement. You got nothing to do. So all we would do all day would we get there at 4 a.m. and we leave at 10 o'clock. And I'd get like Skyline chili and then just like eat it like half asleep, just like sitting there eating it. People are looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm just grunting to myself. And I go to bed and do it all over again. And so, yeah, it was awesome. The month of January is a blur, but I'm pretty sure it went well, I think. So, Brian, I appreciate the compliments because I don't even remember what happened in January. It was a blur.
Hey, Coach Higgins, man, I love that guy. God bless him for what he did, dude. Driving up and down. I got some words I could say about him.
Have a Roy or Nico podcast.
I love it, man. No, including everybody. So I got.
I gotta hear.
You two are hitting it off. We could here.
You know what I called Higgins. You know what I called him when he was in Cincinnati.
Dude.
Do you know what I called him?
What?
I mean, I don't know if you're prepared for this. I just called him Coach Big Fuck. That was his name.
That's very appropriate. That's very appropriate.
Yeah, that's what he's known as. So you could tell him that's his new name. He lived with me. So he lived with me in college. So he was in between rents. Actually, I took him on his official visit when he was at Michigan State.
and we got into a fight, and he like knocked out a couple frat guys, but that's neither here nor there. So he lives with me. It's my graduate year, and he needed a place to stay, so he decides to live with me. And this dude is as rustic as you can get, man. And so he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, man, he just moves in. He's like, "Hey, I just caught a couple fish. You mind if I just clean out the fish and like when you come back, I'm like, yeah, dude, no problem." I come back, dude. He had moved in like 12 hours earlier. He has fish gutted on our kitchen countertop. There's a buck mounted on our wall. There's guns. There's freaking fishing reels. I'm going. I felt like I was at a Cabela's. I'm like, what in the world is going on, dude? I'm from like suburban. I'm like, what in the hell, dude? This is the most rustic things. He had squirrel stew brewing up in a crock pot. I'm like, what? Yeah, oh yeah, this dude's a wild. You guys all know Higgs. He's a wild.
Yeah.
No, that's wild.
Animal. Yeah. So he's the best. I just talked to him on the phone driving in. I talked to Danny Foligno like 3 days ago too. It's funny, guys. It's a small world.
Danny was on the pod too.
Those are my guys right there.
Oh, dude, I got so many damn stories on that, dude.
Did the story when he was like stuck? Was it him or one of your guys' boys that was like stuck behind the door and they couldn't open the door because his foot was in the way? Was that Higgs?
I think that was Higgs. I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
and he was sleeping, sitting up in the bathroom, and like no one could get in because his big damn leg couldn't move him. Yeah, I know that one. I love that. But I always think it's so funny because he always would tell me all about his guns. Like, sounds like he's damn John Wick, and I'm just trying to imagine that, like 400-pound, like big ass guy, just like John Wicking around his backyard with like assault rifles and pistols, quick drawing them out. Just like, I think it's the funniest shit. And you have to tell, you were talking to him. I FaceTime him all the time, and he never returns any calls. But the moment him and Danny want to make a your mother joke at me over text, he'll jump right on that damn phone and jump right in it with Danny and get on my ass about like, oh, your mom this, your mom that, just like clockwork. So you tell his ass to call me and to quit being some pansy because he knows I'm just going to give him the smoke.
I'll let him know. I'll text him right now.
All right, good.
He's so
Nico,
he's big time now. He's a big time guy.
Yeah, big time, big fuck. He's a suck eye. He's a suck eye now.
He's so edgy now. He's the best, dude. The guy's the porcelain hammer. That dude's a wild man.
Nico, have you ever put your head in a fan?
I've metaphorically many times. That's what the life of the fullback is, man. You just eat the fan. But yeah, it's funny. I don't even know if this is what you're talking about, Chad. But
no, I'm literally putting your head in a moving fan.
No, not yet. Not yet. Is that a common thing? Do we do this here? Because I will. If you guys are scared, I'll do it.
It's a Royer thing. He used to, that's how they had fun on the weekends. Was they put guys' heads in the fan.
That
got him in the ER one time.
Thing.
COVID got weird for them.
I'm like, okay, are we talking a ceiling fan or like a floor fan?
Yeah. No, a ceiling fan.
Like are you jumping up and literally eating the fan as it's rotating?
Like it would be like the guys are like under you and they you jump and they push you into it like that. That was like
how fast is the fan going?
It's like medium speed, but we that was our shit. Like when we won the conference in 21 and then into the playoff, we would just like throw guys would come over to the house, just throw ourselves in the fans. The locker room, they would throw me through the locker room tiles, put my head through them.
Wait, how many fans were broken in the process of you being launched into a ceiling fan though?
We broke 2 at my house, then we broke 1 at another house that wasn't ours, but it was so I think 3. We got 3 bodies.
My gosh, dude.
Royer ended up in the ER from the fan game.
No
way.
It
was his brother.
His brother ended up in the ER.
Yeah.
What, did he karate chop his neck or something?
No, it literally just it hit him right here. The pedal of the fan flew off, but just split his eyebrow. And he's like, we were like, well, you know, we were all drinking, just being dumbasses, and you do a double take on him, and he's just gushing blood like he's in Rocky, and he's like, do I have to go to this? Like, he's like, do I have to go to the hospital? Like, no, you're fine. You know, like just drink a couple more beers, you'll be good. Next thing we know, we're at Children's Hospital, just on the verge of blacking out, sitting in there with all those poor little kids and nurses. Like literally, I told them before, I was like top 5 drunkest in college, like in Children's Hospital, like with my brother trying to get stitches in his eye. Just like, do I throw up in the sink of this Children's Hospital room? And it was just like the biggest shit show, all because he put his head in a fan and split his head open. So
I've never done that. No, I'm mad.
He thought it was like a metaphor.
No,
like,
it's
no,
real.
It was a metaphor because I've heard like put your face in the fan, like run into contact. So I'm like, okay, this is a football metaphor. I've never seen it literally done. Which
is that where you guys got it, Royer? Or somebody would be like, a coach would be like, put your face in the fan, and then one night you guys looked up at the fan and went, let's do it.
We got it from my buddy. I told you guys, my buddy, he shaved his head bald, and he was like, we were fucking around one night, and he was like, yeah, do you think it'd be funny if I put my bald head in the fan? And I was like, yeah, that'd be hilarious. And so he did it, and it like made like a funny ass sound. So like we kept doing it. And then one time we were drunk, we were just like, all right, just throw him in the fan, like full speed. And it just became a stupid party trick. It just turned into a football meme. So we went with it.
We're a little different here in Cincinnati, Nico.
I love it. I can relate to that. If you're not curious,
total jackassery.
What do we have? You know, what does happen when a head meets a fan running at half speed? I don't know. Now I know. This is great.
Yeah, some fun shit.
Emergency room.
Yeah.
with 6-year-olds. Like,
yeah.
The emergency room with a bunch of 6-year-olds.
Mommy, why are they so big? Why are they in the hospital?
You look over.
Why can't they stand up?
One of them's like this at you earlier.
Yeah. Like.
Did you have the war paint on?
No, didn't have that on. Didn't get the eye blackout.
I didn't know what happened before the fan game. Like if you guys had to,
Yeah, we got all game ready up. Got all the fucking eye black on. You know.
You want to tell Nico about your Make-A-Wish punt block?
I love how you've completely embraced the Make-A-Wish. It
was one of the funniest things I've ever heard when you said it live.
I know. I still don't know if I should feel like bad about saying that, but like it's just been like Coach Freeman, Coach Fickle, like yeah, get them canceled. They would say it too. They'd say that shit to me all the time after I did it. Yeah, so basically I was like the enforcer on punt block where I would just kind of like try to take out
put your face in the fan.
Yeah, literally. I was like a heat-seeking missile on the middle shield, and we were playing ECU, and Coach Mason's like, they like to get low, so try to go over their top shoulder pad. So this is like the last regular season of my 5th year, and I haven't made a play ever in a game. Like I've gotten some garbage time minutes and just a special teams grunt, basically. And first punt out there, they go down low, and I just kind of like stick my arm over the shield and like block the punt. And it was kind of like one of those moments, you know, like Ricky Bobby, like I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. Like we were just running around, just like fucking like losing my goddamn mind. Like everyone on the sidelines is like picking me up like a Make-A-Wish. And so we like the next day, like after like I don't remember like what it was, like Joel DeBlanco was like, yeah, like said like, are we gonna talk about the Make-A-Wish pump block? And like Coach Fickle loved it, so we just started saying it was the Make-A-Wish play because the Make-A-Wish linebacker finally got to do something on the field. So
That's a good story, though. That's good.
Yeah, it's
That was
good.
part of the story.
Yeah, if you'd have to be
We'll
on the
save-
team, yeah, you'd have to be
we'll
on the
save-
team to just see like the like meme I became like in my last year. Like I was like the 23-year-old like destroying like the
Coach's kid.
the early enrollees like on threes during spring ball, and like it was just like because it was like oh, Make-A-Wish is like out there doing his thing, like just making way too many plays because he's been in the program for 5 years. He knows every single play the offense is gonna do. Just like
He had one of the greatest spring games in the history of the program from the linebacker position.
literally, dude. I had like, I don't know, 4 TFLs, 2 forced fumbles, 2 sacks, just like 3 explosive hits, just all on the threes, just all of them against the.
Because you know all the signals anyway. You just
literally, all they would do, Coach, is literally they had this play called Maine. It was the double A gap blitz of the inside linebackers, and the freshmen, like I would just time it up. They couldn't block me, and so we'd run Maine like 15 times, and I would just like destroy them. Literally, they started calling. They changed the call to like I think they called it like Royer. They started calling it Royer just because they literally would run it every fucking time with me. It was a joke. It was like it was like the signal was like this or something, and I'd be in. It was just every single Coach Mike Tressel, every single fucking play, that over and over and over.
And let's just say
main cross over and over again.
Yes.
Let's just say the lineman,
running back,
the lineman he destroyed every time's last name rhymed with Tickle.
Oh gosh, yeah, he has to kick over to get you as you come off. Oh, yeah. I know
that, or literally just, or he would just get the ball out like through his legs, and I would be like on him, and like his dad's back there just laughing, like loving it, just thinking it's the funniest shit.
He's supposed to be a prom. He was supposed to be a prom.
Yeah.
And Royer's kicking his ass in the spring game.
Setting him on skates.
Of course, Luke liked it though. I mean, he loves defense, right? So I mean, that's no surprise.
Yeah. And Chad, remember the best part was like after the scrimmage, like all these reporters that don't really know what's going on. They're like, "Who is that guy? Like, are we gonna be seeing him getting some like reps with the ones next week?" And Coach Vic is like trying to take the question seriously. Like,
that's when I started the whole Royer for Heisman thing, right?
Yeah, it was just like my 5th year was like something like it was kind of like a dream, but it was also not, because it's like I'm a competitive guy and like I've just became this like meme joke, but it was also nice because like they just let me do whatever I want. I didn't have to I got to chill and like have fun at practice, like mess around with Danny and Higgs all day long. And I got to go out there and play my special teams. But at the same time, I'd sit back and be like, I'm really just a joke. That was it was like my 5 years of working my ass off harder than damn near anyone on the team was just like, I am the Make-A-Wish meme gesture. But it paid off some ways though. It was
and you blocked a punt. That's a real punt block though. That's a stat, dude.
Yeah, it was real. Like that
I've
happened.
ever blocked.
On the best team in program history. There you go.
Damn right, dude. That's a stat. No one can take that shit away from you, dude.
I know. Wear it on my sleeve, man.
Everyone knows it. I'd have that tattooed on me.
Anywhere you go. Oh, this is anytime it's like, oh, it's like I meet someone like new. They're like, oh, this is like Ryan Royer. He played football for Cincinnati. Like, oh, really? Then they go, yeah, he blocked a punt. And they're all like, what? Like, most people don't even know what the fuck that means. So it's just like, it's like my friend's way of like making fun of me. It's like, oh, you don't remember versus ECU? He blocked the punt. They're like, what? What are you talking about? I'm like, just shut up. Just like, let it go.
Yeah. I think I have one catch for 2 yards. So, like, that's my stat sheet. I'm like, yeah, I caught a ball against the Indiana game,
There
2011.
you go.
Hell yeah,
2 yards,
brother.
baby. Come on, check tape.
Hey, babe.
Make a
Check
wish
tape.
nation.
All right, we kept you for way too long. You said we were supposed to let you go an hour, like a half hour ago.
You guys got to be rolling, man. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Now you know why Brady was part of this podcast every other week for like 3 years.
Yeah, I get it. You guys let the cat out of the bag, dude. I apologize, man. Appreciate you, though. That was
Don't
awesome.
apologize. We're having a blast. This was fantastic.
This is great, man. Thank you guys so much, man. I appreciate the time. This was really fun. Yeah. If I'm ever welcome back, I would greatly appreciate it.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Damn right. Let's go, baby. I was gonna say, I've been denied before in high school. You know, it was a tough time for me. I get it. I've been denied many times. I'm used to it. Come back to the cool kid table. They're like, I get it. This is great, man. Hell yeah. Made it.
We love it. We love it. It was fantastic, man. It was fantastic. It was a legendary first performance, one of which there will be many more down the road.
Brett, you're gonna have to hang on to those quick hitters for next time.
Oh, I've got a whole bag of them.
Yeah. I was firing them off, man. I'm ready. I want more stats coming out, dude.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Next show.
He's got
Do
more.
you have
He's got more.
that one catch for 2 yards on your stat sheet?
I had it actually. Yeah. I did. Yeah. Hey, don't discount your special team reps you had as retro sophomore as well.
Oh,
Those specs, man. Don't ever count out the specs.
You can't. Yeah, I don't have I think I might have had a fair catch, or I got laid out in Georgia game. That's another long story. I got smoked. I got funny Tressel story. Last story. So Mike Tressel story. Yeah. So we are. I'm a redshirt freshman. We're playing Georgia in the Outback Bowl or something. Mm-hmm. And all year, I've been on KOR, and all year because I was like the front fullback, the front wing, and they said. No, I'm a fullback in the back. And they said all year, don't fair catch it because no one will be fast enough to get down there. So just feel the ball, take it up, gain 5 to 10 yards, whatever, call it a day. So in my head, I'm a fullback. So I'm yeah, absolutely. So we're playing Georgia in the Outback Bowl, and they kick a sky kick, and I'm fielding it. You know, I'm like Ken Griffey freaking Jr. I'm going underneath it, fielding it, and this ball gets caught up in the air. And I freaking catch it right on the sidelines. I turn upfield, and I swear the linebacker is like here. And I'm talking, he decleats me. He sends me like 9 yards in the air. I'm just holding on for dear life. And I hit the ground. I think I slide back another 6 yards. I mean, blast me. And I run off the field, and Tressel's yelling at me, like, why didn't you fair catch it? I'm like, what have we talked about for 2 years, dude? Like, what are we talking about? You just got my ass laid out. I'm trying to be a freaking hero here. Dude, just freaking knocked off. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. Special teams gives, it gives you more anxiety about special teams and like being a PP and being on KOR and kickoff. Like, that is the most stressful, dude. Special teams, you got to have some berries, man. You're the toughest of the tough. Those guys are. My gosh, it's so hard to be on special teams.
KOR is the hardest thing ever. It's the hardest. Like, I don't understand. Like, if you're there, we'd have guys that literally they're like, all right, you run back 10 yards, and here's a guy running 60 yards down the field full speed. He's either going to run into you as hard as he can, or he's going to try to juke you out of your shoes. And yeah, go ahead. Don't miss the block. It's just like, thanks, coach. Like, we'll try our best.
Yeah, and he's way more athletic than you, and he has a 30-yard head start, and you're holding on for dear life. You're like, we'll see what happens, because if he decides to lay me out, it's a good shot he's going to. If he doesn't, he's going to make me mad. You're like just like trying to trap a chicken who has a head of a rhinoceros coming at you. It's a nightmare. It's a tough job, dude.
Matt says we need to find this video.
Yeah, I was going to
gosh.
I know. I already had it up there.
Got laid out over and over again on a reel. I've seen it many times.
Nico was just thinking, Shamrock Days.
Yeah. Back when I was somebody, baby. No, dude, it's awesome.
Oh yeah,
I'm not.
dude.
Everyone's gotten laid out. There's not
Oh, yeah.
one.
Oh.
There's not one football player that doesn't have you getting laid out. And you're watching when you're waiting on the Sunday after the game. You're just waiting to see that clip of you getting smacked. You're like, oh my gosh, dude, it's the best feeling.
Your wife's gonna be like, "Were you drinking down there?"
Yeah.
Why were you down there for so long? What was happening?
I know. I'm in it. I do have to get out of here. I love you guys. You're the best.
Oh, we appreciate it, man. This was outstanding. You had big shoes to fill, and you filled them.
Thank you.
That's all you can ask for.
That's all you can hope to do, guys. That's all you got. It's you guys. You guys made me look good, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for the softballs. I need it. Next week we're gonna start talking like trade policies and stuff. You guys are gonna blow me away. I won't be ready for that.
We're all gonna
already
have
know.
Hey, we're all gonna have TVs on in the background with different channels. So
I gotta read the room.
you have to really figure us out.
Can't make any of us mad either with anything
Yeah,
you say.
you got
Yeah,
really,
can't take any
really.
offense. You guys are the best, man. I appreciate you guys very much, man. Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, Nico. This was
Thanks, sir.
amazing,
Thanks,
man.
Appreciate you guys. I'll talk to
I'll
you
see
guys.
you Wednesday.
Yeah, right. I'll see you.
All right. See
See
ya.
you guys. Thanks again.
Yep.
We found our radio
Nico
replacement.
Palizzetti.
The man. He's got the fucking strength coach voice too, dude.
Oh yeah.
What do you think, Royer? Well, let's real quick before we get Royer's reaction to having Nico on for the first time. Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. Quick Paper services over 150 restaurants with weekly low minimum next day deliveries, providing a wide range of food service products from to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick, 513-470-2029, and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Well, also
Royer, that was Royer's interview. Like, Royer, you were in your comfort zone there. You have been waiting to talk to this guy, right? So give us your review.
I was pleased. I really like him, but I wasn't surprised because that's what I expected. Like you say, you don't like follow the path he's followed without just being a dude, and that's exactly what he is. And he was the most crucial hire I think we had. It was him, and then I thought it was Manning, but Manning's not here anymore. But I think just having him is so big, and I think he's going to do a great job. I'm really impressed by him. He's humble. I don't know if you guys could tell that by his answers.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's just humble and he's passionate, and that's what you need. I think if you have those things, you can do anything. So I'm excited about him. I mean, I hear all the shit he does with the guys, and it's good. The more pain they're in, the better. So I'm pumped. I just want to meet him in person now.
That was the most made man story you've ever heard, though, in regards to a coaching hire, right?
I'm also shocked the way they handle Mick like that. Literally, like the boss is what he is.
I mean, to have handlers for people who go to talk to him, that was wild.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's right out of the book.
Yeah.
In that world, Mick is the godfather. He's the Don. Like, that's who he is in that world.
I drew that correlation immediately.
Yeah.
All right.
Your impression was pretty good too, Aaron.
Oh, you like that? On this.
On this, the
Yeah.
day of my daughter's birth. Yeah. No, that was good. Really good. That was not broken either. That was a well-oiled machine, like a well-oiled car. That's something that Danco transmission and auto care can do for you if you have a non-well-oiled car or you need an oil change. We've got to mention our boys, Mr. Danco, Joe, and all his fellas over there that fix you up, get you everything you need. Forgot to mention you at the beginning, but good time to mention you now. That was awesome. Anything else football wise? Hopefully we can get Nico on. If not every other week, just more often, we can kind of dive into a little bit more questions about the team and how things are going and whatnot, aside from kind of just what we did today. But anything else football wise? I know, Chad, you got a practice report up. There was practice last week as well. There was the pro day as well. I think you guys also touched on that on one of the nightcaps on top of things. But anything else as far as just football side of things?
I don't have anything in that regard.
Okay.
And I'm going to guess that Ryan and Chad also have nothing in that regard at this point.
I have nothing.
Well, I think Chad was at practice, but I guess I think he's away from La Computadora right now. So,
well, while we got you here, Ryan, we talked about the other night and we're in this subject. We talked about the other night on the nightcap, but any surprise from you that Ben is taking first team reps? Even this quickly after the injury?
No, Ben's a warrior, man. He always has been. He goes about his business. He's been in competitions a lot. He's been in a competition. Think about that. Since he came to Cincinnati, he was in a competition all the time. Goes to EMU, he's in a competition. Comes back, he's in a competition, and now he's in another one. So it's good for him. He's been forged in the fire. He could throw the damn ball, and he's just a competitive MFer, man. And so I think he's taken this by the reins, and I think they're going to play whoever the best quarterback is. And I think Ben has every bit ability to be that. And I think he's showing that right now. So he deserves it. And I'm not sure if
he took first team reps today or not, but I know he has been at least the couple practices.
Well, he's been taking the first reps in 1-on-1 and 7-on-7. He hasn't done any
I'm not sure
stuff yet.
I'm not sure they've actually run like full first team, right?
They have some, yeah. And you're going to run team.
I don't know with his injury though. Is he able to run?
Not really.
All of that quite yet? Yeah.
Not really. He didn't today. Emory Jones ran with the ones today. Evan was dinged up, and Ben's still not running with the one or the team periods. So it was Emory and then Lichtenberg and then Drogish running 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Coaches like to show their hand in spring, and I don't know if they're trying to light a fire under Emory if they don't feel like he's providing what they want from him, or if they want to make Emory feel like he's got to step up his game. But normally, like, they aren't just gonna like throw Ben out there just for shits. So people don't count out Ben, and there's a reason he's in there getting reps. So
there we go. Yeah, Chad's got the spring practice report up on the board. So if you want more on practice, you can head over there. Chad, anything at all you want to kind of point out though that caught your eye, or is it kind of just more of a check it out? See you later.
I think Jordan Young is going to be really, really good. Really, really good as the number one corner. He has been outstanding in the 2 practices I've been at. Carey said the same thing in the 2 practices he was at. Like, this is a kid that played big time football at Florida, was on the field at Florida, and kind of wanted a fresh start.
For clarity, that's Carey who writes for Bearcat Journal, not Carey Combs, who has been to all of the practices, not just 2 practices.
Yeah. But Jordan Young has gotten rave reviews for his play so far. So he's one that stood out to me. The rest is pretty much in the practice report. We did see a nice run by Manny Covey today, the freshman, getting outside and turning upfield. I think he's an exciting young guy. Look, if we're being honest, here's the truth of the situation. Right now, the defense looks like it has a chance to remain very good. The offense has a long way to go. And that's not a surprise, given everything that was lost on offense. But they're so short at wide receiver. Shaman was with the wide receivers today.
Yeah, what they have 4 wideouts right now.
It's a little bit more than that, but not much. I mean, Marcus Peterson left the program, so Chris Scott is now the only scholarship wide receiver remaining from the Fickle regime in a room that generally goes 12 deep They have one returning scholarship wide receiver from last year. They're going to have to get at least 3, maybe 4 wide receivers in the spring just to fill up the room. They are hurting
Not
at
good.
wide receiver.
It's crazy.
Like, I think T. Wiggins has a chance to be pretty good. I think Donovan Ollie is a serviceable high major college wide receiver, but there are just no numbers in that room right now. It's frightening. If you want to talk about like something that raises your eyebrows and is a little bit frightening, their lack of depth in the wide receiver room is concerning.
So there's going to be some eye-popping numbers, and you know what? It's even kind of concerning as well, just due to some of the injury history that exists in that room for the people that are there. Yeah, especially D. Wiggins is the first that comes to mind. Yeah, he kind of heard his name quite a lot, but that's not really there. So, you know, you got to hope that he's ready to go at full strength and stays injury free for the most part. Anything else as far? I see you kind of listed who was available, the who was running with the 1s and the 2s on the offensive line. That's an interesting thing to look at on the board as well. Aside from that, it's practice back again Wednesday, correct? So it'll be time to continue to evaluate more and more. But I don't know. And anything else football wise? I know we got a lot more basketball stuff in the mailbag still.
That's what I got for now.
All right, right on. Well, speaking of Shimon Mateer at out deep, you know, he once had a triple-double in basketball. Speaking of basketball, the basketball season just wrapped up for the Bearcats in year 2 of the Wes Miller era. You guys kind of already touched on it, a couple of different podcasts, nightcaps, this, that, and the other. I don't think we really need to touch on the Utah Valley and their, you know, Mark Madsen now going to Cal. I don't know if that came official, but that was what words were saying. But lost there. Seemed like a pretty crazy atmosphere. But now the ever exciting post season where the off season now opens wide open. Chad, Aaron, you guys, I think we're touching a little bit on the teams in the Final Four last night and different things of that sort and roster makeups. And then all of a sudden today news hits, expected news for the most part. Landers Nolly will be testing the draft waters, accepted an invitation to the Portsmouth Invitational. I kept trying to look up, you know, if they did change the guidelines. They obviously have. If Landers is saying he's going to, you know, leave the option to return. Last season, the Portsmouth was not a, you know, sanctioned event for the NBA. So it must be now. They must have changed that because, you know, Courtney Ramey is the name that people have brought up that, you know, went and tested the waters and decided to come back, had to sit out 3 games due to suspension. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I saw one study that said that they've changed it. So he's leaving the door open to return. There's been a couple of different reports on, you know, where Landers grades out, this, that, and the other. But kind of your thoughts seeing that news and then kind of the trickle effect or the non-trickle effect, if you will, of, you know, obviously the news of Landers that's been hinted at becoming official. Aaron, pass to you.
I don't know. I mean, obviously you want to see a guy who can score at that clip come back. And, you know, right now, I don't know that anybody on the roster, especially if you losing, there isn't a if you losing David DeJulius, you wonder where the points are going to come from without also Landers Nolly coming back. So, yeah, I mean, that's a drop off of what, about 30 plus points?
Yeah, it's about like 32 points, 31 points, and then there's like 26 shots between the two of them.
So I'd be concerned as to where you're going to get those points from if you're not bringing back Landers and with DeJulius graduating. That'd be my main concern. So it'd be, can you find another guy who can score, another 2 guys who can score like that in the portal?
Yep. Chad or Ryan, just thoughts on the Landers thing, and then obviously recent news of the portal and whatnot.
I mean, this is what we expected with Landers, like,
Right.
so, just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah,
He's an interesting case study. He's going into his 6th year. He's a guy that genuinely, like, you're all ACC first team. You score as many points as he did his freshman year at Virginia Tech. Like, you think you're going to be an NBA guy at some point in time, like in the very near future. And here he is 3, 4, 5 years later, still in college. So does he want to just go ahead and get started with his professional career? That includes the decision of maybe I have to go to Europe. I have a young daughter. I can come back to Cincinnati and get NIL money. Like, there's a lot of different ways that this could go for Landers. There was, I think one of the major NBA guys said tonight that they thought if he went all in on the draft process, he could get a 2-way contract. Right now, 2-way contracts are $500,000.
Sam Vecini of The Athletic, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot that Wes is going to have to think about. You know?
Yeah, and
Landers is going to have to think about. Like, it's a,
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing about basketball nowadays is the fact that, yes, there is the opportunity to play professionally, but there is also the NIL that makes things interesting on top of it. So you got to
because a lot of these guys can make more in NIL than they can make playing their first year professionally if they're a top of the roster guy.
Right. If you're not getting a 2-way contract and you're just playing in the G League, or if you're stepping your toe overseas, which, I mean, Landers spoke about, liking to play in front of his mom, and you mentioned his daughter as well on top of things. Those are two things where if you're heading over to Turkey or heading over to Greece for a year and trying to get your career started over there, it's not as easy to figure out how we're going to move there and play in front of mom and whatnot. And then, of course, the G League, if you don't get the 2-way contract, then the G League's not very enticing financially, at least initially. Obviously, you have the chance to prove yourself there continuously, but another thing about Landers is his clock is something that is what teams will consider, and that's why someone who's the 9th best 3-point percentage in all of college basketball at 6'7", that's why he's not getting the amount of looks that a 19-year-old 6'7" wing shooting 42% from 3 would get. So it's definitely good to test the waters. If some team falls in love with you and you really trust what they say is correct, then you know what? You got to do what you got to do. But the option to return is the main thing there, especially with NIL available.
Yep. We'll see how it plays out.
But the sad thing about that is it could be a long play out. Which is
that's
fine.
the game. The game is the game, right? Like you can't want to be in the game with potential pros on your team and then be upset about those potential pros going through the process. Like that, you can't. Everybody wants this to be convenient for their needs and desires.
Quick fixes,
And that's, I'm sure Wes would love it to be quick and convenient for his needs and desires. But if we're being honest, there's one bona fide starter level talent that we know could go into the Big 12 and be a high-end starter level talent before they play a Big 12 game, and that's Landers Nolly. Now, maybe you can go get somebody else that's done it at the high major level to step in and be the new Landers Nolly, whatever the case may be. But the reality is he's a guy that you can, write the check on. He's going to go into that league and be successful.
Yeah.
So you play the process. You play the game. If he's open to remaining at Cincinnati as he goes through the process, then you respect that and you ride that out until you figure out what he decides to do. Here's the other thing that people don't think about. He's going to be talking to Wes throughout this process.
Right.
So Wes is going to have a better idea of where his head's at than anybody.
True.
Yeah, just because it's not public knowledge doesn't mean that coach doesn't have pretty good idea as to what's going on.
Right. Like, neither of those two guys are going to go running around telling everybody what their private phone conversations are.
Right.
Wes is going to be more informed on this topic than you, me, like his agent, like anybody. So sit back and kind of let things develop, and we'll see. We'll see where they go.
Let the man cook.
Let him cook. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, it's a situation that a lot of teams are going through as well, where you see numerous players have not only entered the portal from other programs, but numerous players have also said, "I'm testing the waters with leaving eligibility to come back available as well." So it's not just a thing, and it's also a good thing. If you have the ability to see, oh wow, Landers Nolly transferred to Cincinnati, played there one season, averaged around 17 points per game, shot a great percentage from three, had a great time there under Wes Miller, and now he's testing the NBA draft waters. I mean, that is literally the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 step program for a transfer trying to further his career. So it's all a good thing in the end. Yes, it sucks as a fan to sit back and be like, okay, what's going on? I want to know the roster now, this, that, and the other. But in today's day and age, you don't know what the roster will be at all from one year to the next. It's very hard to tell. Aside from that, I imagine as it is happening all around the country, meetings with coaches are taking place. I don't know dates on those or anything like that, but it's happening. Once season ends, that's just the procedural steps, and then more decisions will be made after that. And as you saw today, Chad, you kind of hinted at it on the board yesterday. The bigger names are going to start to flow into the transfer portal as well. I mean, I know a lot of people are mentioning Caleb Love on the board out of North Carolina. Ranked Mass we mentioned last week on the podcasts and on the board was mentioned as well.
I would not put Caleb Love on your wish list.
Okay, that was a interesting one. A high volume guy, if you will, but the volume is like really loud, and it's music that doesn't always sound great. But sometimes the music has some hits, and it can really, really drive you happy. But yeah, so that opens and shuts the Caleb Love talk. Rake Mass obviously is a name that has been circulating. You saw the Bradley writer on Twitter mention that Cincinnati has been in contact with him extensively. Connections there, this, that, and the other. Any names that you've recently seen, Chad? I know the Shedrick out of Virginia looks like that was a somewhat of a connections were starting to be pieced together, little dots.
The guy running his deals is Xavier guy.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get your hopes up there.
Okay. Well, what are you seeing in the portal that
I'm not
drawing
we're not. I'm not going to be putting a bunch of names on the podcast. That stuff is going to be on the board as we go through this process. I have put a couple names up that I think are interesting to watch. I think right now it is important to note that there are still major names entering the portal every day. And if you start filling up early, and then what we talked about, they're not going to have – this is not a situation where you're going to have a bunch of spots. Mm-hmm. So some patience is going to be required as they sort through things and figure some things out and figure out what guys are the right fit, what guys they think are not only the right fit on the court, but off the court. There have been some guys that have mentioned UC that Honestly, I don't think UC could touch, given how their college careers have gone so far. Another thing important to remember, with a lot of these guys that are in the portal, that the numbers look good on the surface, but something seems a little off, it's probably because something's a little off.
Like Caleb Love and his triangle.
I'm not talking about him specifically. Maybe a big man from the ACC that's originally from Ohio, who has been a problem in his couple years at college.
Real big man.
Yes.
Had a great start to last season, though.
Yeah. Talented player.
Talented.
His talent was evident in high school.
Oh, yeah.
But the issues were also something that a lot of people talked about in high school. So you're doing a lot more than just like what fans are doing, where it's, oh, look, this guy looks talented. Well, you got to get on the phone and start talking to people, and people that know the kid and what the kid is about. What's he going to be like when he's in your locker room? What's he going to be like when he's around your team? What's it going to be like if things, if he hits a rough patch? Like, we'll go back to Kalu. What's going to happen if they come in and things don't click right away? Kalu was perfect. Didn't complain. Wasn't an asshole. Continued to worked his way back into the rotation, and was never a problem in the locker room. What you can't do is have somebody come in that has a bad 2 to 3 weeks, goes in the tank, and starts trying to drag everybody in the tank with them. So you have to be careful in the portal on these things. Like, not everything is perfect. Not everything is just cut and dry. Oh, that guy's talented. Bring him in and he'll be an instant fit with your team. A team, mind you, that lost David DeJulius and could lose Landers Nolly, which were kind of the two top of the roster veteran guys.
Right.
So there's going to need to be a new leadership structure developed at the top of this roster going into next year.
Even with Nolly, if you remember, he didn't really get to that leadership level until 2/3 of the way through the season.
Yeah.
At least visibly from
Matt,
a fan perspective.
Think of it like this, Matt. If I wanted to say a name, I would have. But putting that on wax isn't always the smartest thing to do.
Yeah.
My understanding, Case, the meetings started yesterday, which is what I initially reported on BCJ Thursday or Friday. I think they were expected to wrap up today, but there could be one or two that, for whatever reason, roll into tomorrow. But I think they were completed today. If not, there might be one or two continuing tomorrow, but they should be done or almost done with that part of the process.
Yeah, and Aaron mentioning the Caleb Love triangle and a couple of other things that
no pun intended there.
And the other things that obviously the quote unquote baggage, if you will. That's why it's good to have the previous connections to said
Pun
players.
Absolutely intended.
That's why it's good to have previous connections with said players. That's why Rank Mass seems to be a guy that's picking up steam. From what you can tell online, it looks like another name that said he's having a Zoom tomorrow with Cincinnati is Quincy Olivari from Rice guard, one of the top scorers in the country, averaged around 20 points per game. Another thing to follow, but as Chad mentioned, it's there's going to be so many names. It seems like every single day there's a whole list of 100+ new names. It's not going to slow down anytime soon. So it's going to be a trickle effect. It's going to be an effect where, if a team wants to bring in a player that they see in the portal and they need to get rid of another player in order to do so, then that might be another possibility as well. I don't know. It's a wild west out there. Good thing the Bearcats have wild west, and we're ready to get it rolling.
I will tell you this. From some conversations I've had, interest in the Bearcats because of the addition to the Big 12, because of having that flag flying, there's a lot of people reaching out, where it's not just Cincinnati, cold calling.
Right.
There's a lot of people like, hey, here you got a spot or two at the top of your roster, looking for an impact guy. So, but they're gonna have to sort through it. That ain't the easy part.
Well, further complicating everything is the NCAA releasing that they may restrict second-time transfers and all of that. So we'll see how that unfolds. But
something tells me that won't be
sweet memo to drop well after the transfer portal window is wide open and all of that.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here, NCAA? Get your shit together.
Right, but you see that, and it's just like, I mean, are they really going to restrict someone because of a coaching change? Like it just there's some of that stuff just on the baseline. It looks like okay, interesting, but still, I think you're going to see a lot of second transfers granted a waiver if they need it.
I really don't think these are legal battles they want to.
Right, exactly.
All you have to do is claim mental health, and are you going to go back and with a fine-tooth comb? It's stupid.
Speed limit's 45 miles per hour here. All right, okay. Make sure and go 45.
The whole thing's stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously a lot of news will continue to trickle out, and it's going to be interesting to see as obviously next Monday will be the closing of the season, if you will, and that's when there will be a lot of important decisions made all around the country, and ones that could affect and could not affect as well.
Well, remember also, this is only the third year of the portal era, quote unquote, right?
Right.
And the first year, everything happened very fast. Very fast.
Yeah.
Like, guys were just committing sight unseen, and some of that was COVID related, where there were still restrictions on visiting and whatever. And then last year, it was much more of a slow burn.
Yeah.
Like, much more of a slow burn, where guys were taking their time. They were having coaches come to their campus and meet with them, like Wes did with unnamed Cincinnati assistant did with Rick Mast on Saturday. It took a lot more for the situation to start playing out last year than it did this year, or the year before. Sorry. So we'll see what direction it goes as we start playing this thing out over the next 2-3 weeks. If guys are going to start taking visits and really figuring out the process. I can tell you this, another thing that's changed that not a lot of people have talked about, now that it's allowed and it's becoming commonplace, all these dudes have agents, man.
Yep.
And the agents, much like free agency, are the ones working behind the scenes and negotiating deals and talking to collectives. And this is a third phase of this that not a lot of people are talking about yet.
Mm-hmm.
But when I've talked to my coaching buddies around the country about how things have gone so far, it almost always starts with, on each kid, well, I talked to his agent and ...
Yeah.
When it used to be, I talked to his guy, or I talked to his AAU coach, or I talked to his uncle, or whatever. It almost always starts now with, I talked to the agent. And it's going to change how things play out, because agents aren't emotional. Agents aren't ultimately in the business of swaying where a kid goes. in the past we've talked about when a guy goes in the portal, most of the time he's already got it figured out. Like a high-end guy hits the portal, most of the time he's already got mapped out. Like
Figure out,
these are the 2 or 3 schools. This one is probably where I'm going to go. We'll see if one of the other ones can catch up, or whatever the case may be. Things are going to be a little different now that like legitimate agents, NCAA certified agents, are for a lot of these guys running the show.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a case-by-case basis too, because you saw J.J. Starling enter the portal from Notre Dame, and he committed to Syracuse like the very next day. And
he's also from Syracuse,
right? Well, I mean, there's plenty of those situations out there where it will be kind of like that, where it is kind of
where a kid's going home. Yeah, a lot of time a kid wants to go home.
Right, exactly. So, case-by-case basis. I even was listening to a podcast with Danny Hurley earlier today, and he mentioned how he Joey California is what he called him. He didn't even know Joey Calcaterra's name when he committed to UConn last offseason. He said he recruited him, and then 2 days later he committed, and he showed up and he called him Joey California because he didn't know how to say his last name, which is just how it is these days.
That's hilarious.
It is an interesting time in college sports, but I mean, shoot, you look at it and you want to talk about parity. You want to talk about leveling the playing field and coaches needing to figure out different ways to build teams, different ways to win. I mean, welcome to college basketball right now, because you look at the Final Four, you look at the Elite Eight. I mean, breaking records, first Final Four with no 1, 2, or 3 seed, first Elite Eight without any 1 seeds. It's just a constant changing of the base. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Wes Miller and the staff approaches it. And now, which they're pretty established heading into the Big 12, like you said, Chad, people reaching out to people. So we'll see kind of how the cookie crumbles.
Can they afford top transfers yet from Case Ellis? While they're not ready to be at the absolute top of the market, I don't think they are limping into the conversation this year with NIL. I think they're at least prepared. That's the best I can put it. I don't have exact numbers. I don't know specifically. But I do know they're not fighting with both hands tied behind their back.
Yeah. Day one ready. Hooray.
Look, man, day one ready changes every day is the problem in this landscape. What was day one ready 10 days ago is not day one ready anymore. So that's where you got to be ready. That's where it's tough. Who's the Jonah Hill from Moneyball on this staff? I think his name's Drew.
Hello, Drew. But yeah, and then of course the whole weird part of all of this is how high school fits into the whole puzzle. You know what I mean? It's
less and less important every day.
Right. Exactly.
If you're not a top 50 kid, it's less and less important every day.
Crazy.
Yep. And you're going to see a lot of good high school players go to these colleges that, might swing and miss in the portal, or decide to continue to go the high school route. And the whole thing is going to be very interesting to monitor and continue to see. So
here's what I do think is an interesting takeaway from this year. I think UConn excluded, because I think 4 of the top 5 highest rated recruits, I think the top 4 highest rated recruits in this Final Four are all at UConn. But a place like FAU, a place like San Diego State, which many forget 2 years ago was 30-2 when COVID shut everything down. Like, they were going into that NCAA tournament as a Final Four contender. I think you're going to see even more, and maybe it will decrease as the COVID seniors start to not be a thing. But what people don't realize, we're still 2 and 3 seasons away from those guys that got the free. Everybody that was in college basketball in 2020 got a COVID year.
Mhm.
So there are still in 2025 going to be guys with a COVID year. But how much of that creates this bubble where there can be a team like FAU that just built a special group very slowly, very steadily. That team made the CBI and the CIT in Dusty May's first year, the CBI last year. They had not made the NIT. They had not made the NCAA tournament. But then this year, with their core, they caught lightning in a bottle. And not just in the NCAA tournament, all season. Like, that's a 33 or 4 win team or whatever it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
They caught lightning in a bottle and have a group ready to make a run. How much of that are we going to see over the next 2-3 years until this COVID year works its way through the system and you have guys that should have been out of college basketball?
Yeah, I mean, and you look at a lot of those teams too, kind of do a
Grown
mix
ass
of,
men.
yeah, well, and even Florida Atlantic, like, yes, they're all technically, because of the COVID year, they're all young. I mean, a lot of sophomores, a couple freshmen, a couple juniors, but they're the one team that's not very transfer, laden.
None of them really are. Not as much. Even Miami, as much as they talked about, they just went out and spent on Nigel Pack and Isaiah Wong, two surefire impact guys.
And Jordan Miller came from George Mason as well.
Yeah, but they didn't spend $500,000 on him.
Yeah,
or $800,000 on. You know what I mean? They went out and they said, okay, we have $1.25 million to go get 2 awesome players in the portal,
that
are going to transform our program.
Mm-hmm.
And they went out and did it, and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting dynamic. Is yes, get the pieces around, get a hand, 1, 2, 3, 4 members from the transfer portal, and if it takes 1 or 2 of those from the transfer portal a year or 2 to get up to the level you want them to be, then let that happen, and then before you know it, you've got a squad full and ready. That's just parity as well, I think, around. It's just the whole thing is strange because it used to be the whole freshman, try and get all 5 stars and build around them. Now there's only one true freshman, I think, that starts on the all Final Four teams.
Here's also something that's important to note. We have not seen a great freshman class in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's true.
And this 2023 class is not one either. It's not. It's just are there good players? Yeah.
I mean,
is it a class where there's 10 or 12 5-stars that are going to go somewhere and be major lottery pick type guys? We haven't seen that for a couple of years.
No, the main thing about this class, 2023, was that they struggled to figure out who was number 1 in the class for ever, I feel like. And I still don't think they all know the answer to who's number 1 in the class.
That's because there's no standout.
Right.
This guy's the number 1. Well, I mean, Victor Wembanyama is the number 1 player in the class.
In the world, yeah. Right. Yeah.
Playing high school basketball, and he's not going to play in college. So, and there's the twins that are at Overtime Elite that are elite talents.
Scoot's one of them too.
Scoot Henderson, the second best. But these are all guys that are eligible for the draft coming up, not high school that have
but these guys aren't going to college.
I know.
This is what I'm saying. You wonder why it's different now, where you can't go get 4 or 5 stars to come to your college and be the dominant team in NCAA basketball.
Because the best one,
it's watered down. And what do most of these guys do if they have the chance? They move up. Gigi Jackson would have been the lock number one player in this class. And instead, he enrolled early, went to South Carolina, didn't do anything really. Like, he was okay, but like didn't set the world on fire.
Right.
But he would have been the lock number one in this class if he had stayed in this class. And you have guys starting their clock, going the pro route, and not playing in college basketball. So that has changed. And guess what? In 2024, one and done is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Now more than ever, it is about establishing your culture, building a roster, and supplementing the roster with 2 or 3 transfers that fill your obvious gaps. We need a big physical 2-guard and a rim protecting big. And if we do that with everything else that we've got going on, like, okay, we've got a team. But that was always a mess, Andrew. It didn't matter if Amani stayed in the same class.
The quote that Chad's responding to is Amani is the cautionary tale of reclassifying, though. Chad forgot he was
That's
on
the
a podcast.
cautionary tale of be careful of kids whose dads are fucking crazy.
Or ranking a kid as the next Kevin Durant as a sophomore, and then he doesn't.
He was, man. He was.
I know, and then he just
was.
didn't.
I saw it, and then his dad screwed him up.
Right. Didn't let him play in the right type of situations. Let him
Dad
just
screwed him up. Like,
Man,
definitely.
I remember a quarterback like that.
Yeah. Interesting. A little.
Keel?
No,
No.
he's talking about the. Oh yeah,
I know who he's talking
Luther
about.
Muhammad entered the transfer portal.
I'm making a funny, Brent. I know who he was talking about.
I made a pun about Luther Muhammad entering the transfer portal.
All right.
But what, Aaron? Were you done with the convo?
No, he's ready for the mailbag. We're already at 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Yes.
Well, real quick, I saw Flory Badunga play this.
Yeah, there you go. I did want to get to that.
Flory
He's good at basketball.
Badunga. So pretty interesting. Flory didn't really blow the top off in the first half. And then the third quarter came around and you saw why why you saw Mike Woodson and his entire staff there and Coach Calipari sitting next to Tom Izzo and, the whole staff from Michigan there. And you saw Bruce Pearl sitting down there. And that third quarter, he did absolutely everything except for make free throws. But, that's something that can be taught. But he's showed why he is the type of player that he is. Right?
Sounds like a Bruce Pearl kind of big from what I saw in the tournament. Just saying.
He is.
I mean, not making free throws, but can do everything else.
I mean, a lot of people are like that. But
I know
he had a block. I'm sure you've seen it on Twitter. He had a block, and then it led to a fast break and an alley-oop that he dunked for an and one. And the big man he played against wasn't, some shtick. He is a pretty good player going to play at Valpo next year. But obviously Flory's a big time talent, and the amount of people there on hand were pretty obvious why he's being recruited at the height that he is. Chad, anything that you can not spill or just update on the whole Flory Badunga saga?
He's good at basketball.
He really is.
Everybody wants him.
Now the season's over, and they'll sit down and start to work through their process. The same as I've been saying the entire time, and everybody wants to like act like they have information that's different. The information has never changed. Like, this is what we always thought, what we always knew was going to be the process, and now they will sit down and they will talk it out. And then the one thing that I did report is the reason Cincinnati was not there. They only have one visit left with Flory in his junior cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And they are going to be using that for a school visit here in a couple weeks once we get into April, after his family and all his people sit down and start to kind of work through what's next. They didn't want to use the final visit to go sit there with You weren't getting any one-on-one time with Flory at the Indiana State Championship. You were just there to show your face like in an AAU game. Okay, great, but what did you really accomplish when you can have one visit left and go and, make your pitch after they have sat down and started figuring out what's next? Still very real that he stays in 2024. It is far from a sure thing that he moves up to 2023. Personal opinion, how many more 6'4" white kids does he have to dunk on in Indiana?
I mean, he was dunking on a 6'9" guy, I think
I know. Now imagine him against the 6'4" white kids on Kokomo's schedule.
He met the final boss, I guess. And
yeah.
He succeeded. The team didn't, but
right.
Yeah.
But I mean, but if you're the people advising him and you have stake in Kokomo basketball, you want him back on your team next year.
And I mean, the amount of fans that were there in attendance. He was the last one. There were seniors in the starting lineup for Kokomo, and he was the last one introduced. And
of course,
got the loudest applause. Yeah, for sure. And no one's there to see the Ben Davis kids play. It's all.
They were undefeated and like one of the best teams in the history of Indiana high school basketball. Right?
They're ranked top 15 in the country. I mean, it was a good game up until the fourth quarter started, but like you said, all those coaches were just sitting, front row, courtside. Calipari left at halftime. Told Orlando Artigua to stay and wear your Kentucky loud and proud. But yeah, it was a lot of coaches there, a lot of people there to take in Flory and I guess just let them know, hey, I'm here. But that's talking hoops. That's talking hoops.
All right. Well, that is the navigating the transfer portal segment.
It's tough to navigate.
I believe Chad had to take a phone call, so we'll go ahead and timestamp this though. Anyway, the Quick Paper Supply timestamp. Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all of your non-food products, including cups, styrofoam containers, napkins, etc. Call Nick at 513-470-2029 and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases. With that said, let's go ahead and get this mailbag open because it's been a long show thus far.
Well, it was Nico.
I get
Our
it.
boy.
Not for a bad reason, but it's just been a long show. We're already at 2:12. Starting in the football section of the mailbag. Am I being overly paranoid, or should we already be concerned with our 2024 football recruiting class or lack thereof? I know the staff. Can I finish reading? I know the staff is playing catch up, but what's your sense based on junior day visits on who we could likely see being the first commit to kick off the 2024 class?
Luke Fickell's first year, the Josh Wiley, Malik Van class, things really didn't get started moving. Ty Van Fossen committed first, right around the start of spring ball. Now, that was a situation where Ty Van Fossen played at Luke Fickell's high school. So, obviously, Luke had some really good connections there. Everything else took a little bit to develop. And then they went through the spring, guys visited, and dominoes started falling. If we get to June and this class isn't starting to take shape, panic. But for now, signing day is not until December, guys.
We gotta get through who's coming after spring ball first.
December. Signing day's not till December. Relax. I think people just got caught, and I get this, because you get used to the rhythm of things as the rhythm of things develops. And the rhythm for Fickell that they had started to get was they would get maybe one or two early commits like before the turn of the calendar. And then by June, they would be almost done. The other thing to remember, important thing to remember,
The staff's
is the
been
calendar.
here. The staff's only been here for like 2 months.
No, let me finish. The calendar has changed in football recruiting. And the most important window now is the June official visit window. We had like 36 guys commit in 18 hours last year. Remember that? When I went to the Fish concert, and while I was at the Fish concert, guys were just committing every 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Was I still writing at that point?
No, that was Mick.
No,
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that was Mick. You would know if you were. That was Mick.
Well, I feel like I had a waterfall of kids committing even the when I was writing.
Look, I think if you were to place a bet on the over-under on when the first commitment would happen, sooner than later.
All right.
Is what I would recommend you place your wager. If I get a prop on Betfred and there's a sooner or later option on when Cincinnati will get his first commitment of this class, I would bet sooner.
Kind of like an over-under a little bit.
Next year would be the only year you could use sooner, because after that year is out of the vocabulary of the Big 12. Moving on.
I mean, the only thing I got to add real quick on that is you are starting to see on Twitter. Stop, Aaron. You are starting to see on Twitter recruits 2024 dropping their top threes, dropping their top sevens that do include Cincinnati. So they're there. They're rolling. They're recruiting. So
thank you for the nugget.
Saturday.
What is one thing you would change for our next round of uniforms? Personally, I would like to see some sort of chrome helmet added to the lineup. Ryan, let's start with you. What would you like to see change for the next round of uniforms?
And what was your favorite thread, too?
I'd say my favorite thread's all black. I kind of like the throwbacks, the red throwbacks. Those were sick. Maybe doing one more throwback kind of jersey like that. I think we had some cool uniforms back in the day, but I mean, I wouldn't want to see a chrome helmet. I don't really think
I'm not in on chrome.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's tacky. I think it looks tacky.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a big uniform guy. You know, I kind of like our traditional stuff. So I'm not really the best guy to go to for that. But if you guys got something, I'd love
Brent,
to hear.
what you got?
You know, I'm with whoever said it in the chat. We have the best color combination out there. I just beg, don't mess with the all black uniforms on Nip at Night. There's nothing that gets me quite going like seeing the all black uniforms at Nip at Night.
I like the comment Matte Black helmets. Matte Black is pretty sick. Matte Red is also pretty good. Chad, anything you got?
Swoosh.
I was gonna say that was mine. I would love to see a different brand. So,
which we're getting, I believe. I love.
All right, everyone is super anxious about. Chad, I'm putting you on mute. My goodness. Everyone's super anxious about Satterfield given his relatively modest showing at Louisville and your limited exposure to him. Are there things you really like? Or on the other hand, are there things that make you a little concerned?
I get just a little concerned just about the passiveness of him, but that's just his coaching style, and that's something I'm not really used to. I just I get anxious about him. Like that's what I kind of stress towards Nico about the recruiting of the Midwest and this area and how big it is and how much success I think it brought us. I'm not losing sight of that. That's my two big anxieties towards him. I really like that he has embraced what was done before him and is trying to build off of it. I think that's great. I think that's crucial for him. But I do think, I do like that he is trying to bring his own side of things, not because that's what you got to do. You can't dwell on what was before you. So I'm just it's not the best situation for him, but he's had success in other places he's been at, and I don't think Louisville is the best example, but everywhere prior. But I think it's just gonna have to see what we get come fall. That's when the real shit starts showing.
There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, Ryan.
Yeah.
I know you liked your way to skin a cat because it worked and it was great, but that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
And like the thing I think that's interesting is this is going to be a guy that knows there aren't going to be a lot of stops after this if he doesn't win big at Cincinnati. Like he had his come up with his smaller school that he built up and made into a small school power and won huge and accomplished great things. And then he got the Louisville job. And we know that there was, a win big first year, a 2-year lull, and then, kind of a bounce back last year. But he knows here, like if I struggle, if we don't get this thing right, I'm not getting another big job. Like I'm not going to ride this thing out forever because this is a football program that's made it clear. Like they have their sights set very high. He's going to get a decent leash, but if you're 3 or 4 years in and he hasn't won, they're going to move on because that's how this works. And if they move on, then you failed at Louisville, you failed at Cincinnati, 2 places that have had a lot of success and played in BCS bowls and played in, major New Year's Six bowls. And if you can't win at those 2 places, why is anybody else at a high level going to step in and hire you? So the pressure is on him. I think he knows it, but he's just not he's not a Luke Fickell, he's not a wrestler, if you will. He's from rural North Carolina. They have a different cut to their jib, and we're going to have to get used to it, and we'll see if it works in the Big 12. And if not, we'll be looking for a new coach in 4 or 5 years. I think the defense is going to be really good again. I really do. I talked to a veteran defensive player today who said now the defense is starting to make sense. The terminology is starting to make sense, and they're starting to play a little faster. And they really like Brian Brown and what that is going to mean for the way that this defense plays. I get some Marcus Freeman vibes, Ryan, from Brian Brown. I do. Foot on the gas. Just go. Play fast, play aggressive, try to beat the hell out of the quarterback and, make plays. And if you can do that defensively, hopefully the offense can come around. Right now, it's not been a good start to spring ball for the offense.
All right. Would Coach Satterfield ever really give Ben a shot at quarterback with the type of offense he likes? Will Prater stay at quarterback and be given much of a chance at quarterback?
Would he give Ben a shot? Yeah. If Ben's the best quarterback. And again, tried to express this last year. The coach is going to go with the quarterback he thinks gives him the best chance to win games because those big contracts are associated with winning games. And you're going to start the quarterback that gives you the chance to keep your job. It's, again, my favorite Mick Cronin line from his time at Cincinnati. And that is in relation to basketball when he said every April they tie you back to the tracks, and by every March, you better figure out a way to get yourself untied because the train's coming. And the
And
train's coming. The only way you get off is the best quarterback on your roster being on the field. Evan, he's a quarterback. Evan has no interest in playing anything but quarterback.
there was one more question in the football mailbag for Nico, but it came in late and we didn't get to it. So we'll see. Save that one for next time. Nico.
Reed, I covered that question in the notes today. So it's on the site. Since everybody is upset with me for not putting notes on the site, there you go.
All right. Moving on to the basketball portion of the mailbag. If you keep only 6 players on the basketball roster, who would you keep, not including incoming players? This isn't a question about who you think will transfer out or leave the program, but rather who would you want to build the program with while taking into account next season? I don't know if I love this question just because it's kind
I'm
of
not doing this.
to shit on players.
I'm not doing this. I don't think you're coming from a bad place.
I agree.
JD, but it only creates a narrative that I don't think is good.
So we'll
Dan,
that.
I'm gonna keep Dan and Vic.
I got 2. We'll leave that one alone. Who do you believe was the most improved player on the roster this season? And your top 3 for player improvement this season?
I think Vic was pretty clearly, until he got hurt, the most improved player. And then when Vic got hurt, Odie stepped in and showed drastic improvement.
I think I'd round it out with Dan.
I would say Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
Dave, compared to Dave, his first 2 years at Cincinnati, there was a substantial improvement year over year.
I'd make the argument that I don't know how much of that was him improving versus having other skill players around him. But
well, sure, but you still have to do it.
Yeah, well, I think Dan improved more.
Bearcat Man would argue Nolly year beginning to year ending. Landers Nolly was an all ACC freshman and an all AAC first team performer. He did improve a ton. There's no argument there.
Yeah.
But he was a really good player when he got here.
All right. Archetypes.
I wouldn't compare last year at Memphis, Bearcat Man. He's comparing his numbers this year to last year at Memphis. Compare his first team all AAC year at Memphis and his all freshman year at Virginia Tech. And things aren't all that far off between those 3 years. Last year at Memphis was a shit show because of Amani Bates and Jalen Duran and the riff in that team between old and new. That was a disaster for most of the year in Memphis.
That should have been like a Final Four team.
It should have been.
All right. Archetypes Wes is most looking for in the portal.
Front of the roster players potentially in the Big 12. It really doesn't matter what they look like. You don't have enough of them. You have to go get a couple. And that's going to come down to relationships and who you know. And So I don't think there's any specific, like, they are looking for ... I think they're looking for, let's go find some really good players at positions of need. One being a big man, one potentially being a shooter on the wing. I don't think there's any specific, like, this is the prototype that Wes is looking for. You have to go get to frontline Big 12 starters in the portal this year. You have to.
All right. How are the new basketball locker room renovations progressing?
I have no idea.
All right. I don't know why I said progressing weird. Progressing. There we go.
We'll get Tobes on and we'll talk about it when he can talk about it. I've not been back there to see them. I would imagine they're going well and that they are creating the locker room that was designed for them to create.
The rest of the question was, it feels a little like this has been lost in the shuffle with all the other things going on. Any details of an expected completion date, what new amenities have been added, and what it'll look like?
No, I don't have any of that at the moment.
All right. Is Wes happy with the amount of NIL money he will have for next year's team? Does it allow him to make a splash in the portal this year for next year's team? Hypothetical situation, you can land Oregon transfer Kalel Ware shortly, or you can take your chance and wait on a decision from Flory. What are you doing?
Flory's the best player they could get, so I would wait on Flory. But I think they're comfortable with where their NIL money is at for this offseason, and we'll see how it plays out. Yes, I think it allows them to make a splash. I think they're in position to add 2 Big 12 level starters to this team. Can they? We'll find out.
Hurry up and wait. Does the staff set the end of the year conversations in a specific order, i.e. they want to talk to guys at the top of the roster first, last, or is it a random order?
It's
alphabetical.
They just have meetings with everybody within like 36 hours.
I mean,
it's
a fair question. I can understand why you'd be curious about it.
Right.
I just don't think that they sit down like, okay, we're going to meet with this guy first, and this guy's like, here's the order of the meetings. I think it's like, we're going to meet with everybody between Sunday and Monday and maybe Tuesday.
I'm sure there might be some sort of like
prioritization.
Like want the leaders in first to kind of tell them how we feel and then get their thoughts on things. I don't know, but I'm sure players talk to each other too. So it's probably
I don't think it's something that's top of mind in terms of like if it played out over a week, I think that would be like an important question.
Yeah, but
it happened so fast that I don't know that there's like
play spin the bottle with the giant locker poster. That's funny. All right. An AAC question for you all. How many AAC conference games next year do you think will draw fewer fans than the Division III Ohio Women's State Basketball Championship game did this year? 3,312 reported attendance. Here's the great thing, Bearcat man. We never have to care.
I don't care.
Ever.
The other thing is, like, the teams that are coming in are on heaters right now from Conference USA. Heaters.
They could win the Triple Crown.
Right. Like, it's wild. Mike Oresco is just sitting there cackling from his evil lair. I'm
curious how many of those teams have gyms that are going to be in the AAC that can hold 3,312 people.
Fair. Football stadiums that can hold 3,300.
That have on average attendance 3,300 people. Looking at you, Houston. All right.
They're going to the Big 12.
I know they're going to the Big 12. They might actually have attendance from all the other Texas schools coming in. Anyway, and the last part of the bag skins. I'm back short on time as I'm doing this on my phone at a neurologist appointment for my wife. Rapid fire. Who wins the BCJ triathlon? Mile run, 200-meter swim, and a 3-mile bike ride?
Royer.
I mean, come on.
Can you swim?
I can. I get really tired, but I can swim.
He's the only
I used to do triathlons, but we did run, bike, canoe instead of swim. So me and my dad would do 2-man triathlons where we would run, bike, and canoe, and not Cabrew, Royer. Not there were no beers involved.
If we can remove one of those and like make it like maybe like each beer you drink, you take off like a certain part of things, I'd put my name up there, no doubt.
It's Royer.
He's the only one. He's the only one who actively works out.
Athletic part, Royer for sure.
We have an
You're not
athlete
the
that blocked a punt in a college football game.
Brent, when was the last time you went to a gym?
It was on Friday, actually.
Did you?
Woo!
I did.
What
Let's
did
go,
you do?
Brent.
What did I do
Yeah.
at the gym?
Yeah.
Oh, I did a deck of cards. I don't know if you guys know what that is. Royer probably
Here we
knows.
go.
I don't know that one.
Oh, so you designate a certain workout for each suit. So burpees, V-ups, squats, and push-ups. And then got some work in on the elliptical, and then
I
called it a
stand
day.
corrected. Well done, Brent. Well done.
There you
When's
Yeah.
the last time you've been to a gym, Aaron?
Fuck if I know.
Right.
Waiting in the car for Rachel to go. Train.
Right. I was in the gym all weekend
True.
watching Kelsey play volleyball.
New Orleans or Miami?
Miami.
New Orleans,
New Orleans.
Miami.
Nolans,
For the food alone, New Orleans.
Nolans.
Nah.
Love me some Bourbon Street.
Miami's got great food, Aaron, by the way.
I know Cuban food. I prefer Cajun. Who wins game of horse of the BCJ staff?
I'll put my name out there.
I got a little strap on me though. Come on.
Okay, little berserk. All right.
I got a little John Moran on me.
I mean,
Little
it's
Jaja.
it's horse. I think anybody can make a run. It's like the Final Four. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it.
I wouldn't make myself the favorite, but I've got some horse shots over
Yeah,
the
some
year that,
of the secret shots.
yeah, I got some stuff that would, put people in a blender.
A little behind the
You
back.
got to do it as a granny shot.
Yep.
Right.
Ain't
Like I got
it.
some horse shots, right?
Can't hit the rim.
That's the mailbag.
There you go.
Look, man, Nico's a friend. A quick friend.
Yeah.
That guy was so excited to be on with us.
I
Mhm.
know.
Or he played us and he was just full of shit.
No,
Either way.
I didn't get that vibe.
I didn't either. I think he had a great time. And he legitimately was like, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. And we were at an hour and 10 and he was gaining momentum. He was picking up steam.
He was still ready for more.
So I'm excited about that from this show. That's the one thing I take away from this one. We're gonna have a great relationship with Nico, and when it comes time after spring ball and they get into summer workouts, we're gonna be able to get him on here and talk about who's standing out and who we need to look for as we get moving to camp. And that's a very good thing for our members.
Get us out of here, Brent.
Well, it was a fantastic show. Yet again, special thank you to our man, Nico Palizzetti. Another special thank you, of course, to Danco Transmission and Auto Care and Quick Paper Supply. But for my guys, my pals, no games this week. Well, baseball. There's baseball. But aside from that,
No games till August, September.
spring practice, plenty of basketball happenings. So stay locked in to BCJ throughout the week. But yet again, guys, for my pals, Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, and Ryan Royer, I am Brent Young. Yet again, another fantastic BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!